Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers
with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family.
I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Box Office Bingers. Ernesto, we have one hell of a movie to talk about this week and one hell of a guest to talk about that movie with.
Oh, absolutely. Brandon Hadnot, sir. Thank you so much for coming back. And as we learned before the show, for the 13th time, thank you. It is an honor to have you back. I can't wait. I love tapping into your vast knowledge, especially, and I think specifically for this movie, since we are reviewing Sinners, once again, coming back on talking about Ryan Coogler again. And I think the amounts, I can't wait to tap into your visual effects knowledge because I feel like it is a much needed conversation for this movie. I mean, you got Michael B. Jordan starring in dual roles as Smoke and Stack. We got Haley Steinfeld, Miles Catton, who's a first time acting role and singer. Absolutely amazing. Can't wait to talk about him later. Jack O'Connell, Unmi Musaku, Delroy Lindo. Written and directed by Ryan Coogler, who we know from Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Creed, and Fruitvale Station. All of these are amazing movies. He's an incredible director. There's so much to appreciate with this film, and I can't wait to get into it with you guys later. But we got some other stuff we're gonna be talking about today too, man.
Yeah, we have a pretty stacked Whatcha Watching that before we dive into that, I just want to, it's been, believe it or not, it's been almost a year since we've had Brandon on the show, which well, actually two things. One, I think it's crazy that it has been a year that it's since you've been on the show, almost a year. We had you on last time for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And I also think it's kind of fitting that we are reviewing Sinners and on your 13th time on the show. So just a little bit of a supernatural number there, if you want to think of it that way.
I didn't even think about that. Look at you, Matt. You're so clever.
Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, it's so deep, right? We have to nowadays. We're stretching here. But anyway, how have you been? It's been so long. I know every now and then we discuss, the updates on Birth of Flowers or like what's going on in your life and everything. But like, how's your world, sir?
Yeah, my world's pretty great. My kids are, just growing so much all the time, especially the little guy. And, just settling up here in Wisconsin and I'm finding film community and everything. My wife has been super supportive of me, working on these projects late into the night for people where I've taken on some editing gigs, some coloring gigs, VFX and even on set as a lighting designer or gaffer, and just kind of doing whatever I can to build community up here. Because even though it's my hometown and my home state and everything, I'm kind of starting from scratch again with that sort of network of fellow filmmakers. It's a little easier than it would have been because there are some people that I know already that I've kind of tapped and said like, "Hey, do you know anybody? Can you help me shoot this thing?" Because 2024 last year it was really hard because a lot of my film equipment got stolen back
Oh
in
wow.
like
Oh wow.
September. I was visiting some friends in Chicago, and silly enough, I brought a lot of my equipment with me because I was like, oh, maybe I can shoot out here. But we were just painting the town, and even though I had my stuff like in the back, and it was like locked up and everything, and covered with like a drape, uh, people still smashed windows no matter what, and took all the stuff.
Oh wow.
But
Oh man.
I've got the faith that kind of rise up again and get my equipment back one by one, by just buying it slowly over time, one tool at a time.
Hmm.
Be a minute until I can get a camera back, but until then I'll use my little worn out tools that I got. But yeah, I'm super happy to be back here on the pod with you guys, and I'm just floored that this is the 13th time. um I always love talking about movies with you guys, and I walk off beaming after the podcast ends all the time, and just got to tell my wife all about it. um, so yeah, that's my life in a nutshell. 2024 was really difficult. Dealt with a lot, but 2025, I'm feeling a little bit better, a little bit more hopeful, and yeah, being here makes me happy. So
Oh, awesome, man. Well, we love, as I was saying before, like it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I love picking your brain. Like you always bring such a wealth of knowledge, and I can't wait to talk about all these other sinners and the things we're going to be talking about and what you're watching. Like I just can't wait to tap into your knowledge about all that. And and then also, guys, we're going to be closing out Daredevil this week as well. So we'll be talking about
nice.
episode 8 and 9 of Daredevil and closing out our week to week watch along of Daredevil.
Yeah, and for those who have been listening us week to week, we did mention last week that we were going to be reviewing The Amateur, but because of timing and I got sick, so
Yeah.
it definitely not our next episode. But we will be talking about The Amateur in addition to other movies in our next week's episode. But this was very much more important that we had this one. We already had this one in the books, and we were not moving this
No,
uh,
absolutely not.
because for us, for all of us, this was the big movie of the spring season.
Oh yeah.
So we were all very excited to watch Ryan Coogler's next venture. And if you wanted to go back and venture, believe it or not, 5 years ago, we actually did one of our very first creator spotlights on Ryan Coogler that we went over his filmography. This was probably close to we had recorded that episode back in 2020, and we went over his filmography. And up until at the time, we had talked about Fruitvale Station, I believe Creed, and Black Panther.
Yep.
And then we had you on, Brandon, for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and now here we are again talking
Here
about the
we
latest
are.
Ryan Coogler movie, and we're all very excited for that. But as Ernesto mentioned, we're going to first talk about and start with a little segment we like to call "What You're Watching." So we're first going to be talking about Paradise.
Whew.
And because I was sick and Ernesto said he watched it, I actually binged this entire show in a day. So it's very fresh in my mind. And it was all at once. So to me, it's just one big story. But Brandon, we'll start with you. What were your thoughts on Paradise?
I really loved it. I thought the pilot was really strong. It kind of gave, excuse me, sorry, little water
That's
break.
how choked up he is about it. Just
Yeah, that's
It's so beautiful.
it's like,
it's
oh,
such an
Sterling K. Brown, oh, James Marsden, so good.
as a, as a huge fan of Sterling K. Brown, I was immediately like, "Oh, I'm watching this. Whatever it is, I'm watching it." And then the pilot, the way it ends in this kind of sort of twisted Truman Show reveal kind of thing, I was like, "Okay, I'm hooked." That little, hook, line, and sinker, it got me. So overall, as the show kind of like progressed, I'm like, "Okay, this is some really good television." And I'm always into like these disaster stories and the tale of how people kind of got together and survived with one another, and how despite that disaster there are people who are deciding to triumph, but there are also the people that you get who either become marauders or just terrible governments and all these things. And that's kind of exactly what we got as these people who were living inside of that dome. So I highly recommend it to anybody who hasn't seen it. um I don't. Well, we talk spoilers here, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
been. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
at least in this sense, because we've all seen it, we're just put a big. If one of us hadn't seen it, we'll probably be a little bit more reserved. But
Yeah.
with everything that we're talking about today, we're just going to put a big old spoiler
Awesome.
warning, just so we can have a free flowing conversation about it.
Cool.
And,
Cool.
and and to your point, a lot of people and a lot of headlines were about the twist of the premiere.
Yeah.
Like that was the thing about this show, and a lot of people were being very hush hush about what happened at the end of the pilot, and that kind of set the trajectory for the rest of the season. And what's funny is that I saw a lot of people like praising the series for not only having this crazy twist, but also having great storytelling throughout. And then I saw some people were like, "Oh, you know what? It wasn't for me." And I feel like there was like by the time I got to the show, there was so much hype around it that now
Mm.
your expectations are like so high of what is this twist? Oh my god. What are they gonna pull out of their hat? What is this magic trick? And then when it happened, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, don't get me wrong, there's a twist here, but not like holy shit, like my mind blown. I was like,
Right.
oh, okay,
Life
I see what
changed forever.
exactly. And then there's like, okay, now the gimmick is now that's the rest of the show, in addition to solving the murder of who killed the president, who was played by James Marsden. But Ernesto, what you I mean, you were watching this, you had started it, and we were talking about this briefly with David, but what were your thoughts?
Yeah, so I had started it and I watched like the maybe like the first two episodes and I was like, oh, this is really good. And then I think I forgot what we were doing, but I just didn't get a chance to get back to it. And just recently, I think within the past 2 weeks, I was able to finish it. And I loved it. And what I really liked, I was like, I'm watching the show and I didn't put two and two together and I go, man, this feels like this is us because you know how they construct the episodes with the music and the flashbacks. I go, damn, it feels like this is us. And then then I looked, it was created by Dan Fogelman, who is the creator of This Is Us.
Oh,
I
get
didn't know
out of
that.
here.
Yeah.
I didn't know
I
that.
had no idea.
So
That makes so much more
that
sense now.
same style of
Yeah.
like they set you up and then they bring you back to the beginning to give and then he just builds he likes to build context within his
Yeah.
stories. And it's the same way in This Is Us. And I was like, I'm here, hook, line, and sinker. It's interesting because it to me it plays out like old school TV. Like I don't know, like
Yeah.
it's like this show could be on ABC, and it would
Definitely.
be
Yeah.
really I would really it would be a very enjoyable show. But it's that style of storytelling that's like made for network TV, but it's so enjoyable. I mean, I thought this was so good. Also, Sterling K. Brown at his
Yeah,
absolute best.
absolutely.
I mean, he is like oh my god, the guy from Die Hard. Like cuz they kind of call it out in the show, but he plays into that role real hard. I mean, he's got the tank
Yeah.
top, he's got the bulletproof vest.
Yeah.
He's saying yippee ki like
He definitely said that. I was gonna say. He said the line.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was it was funny too because when he was in like his like the business suit and like, the full on suit and tie, you're like, okay, yeah, that seems like, he looks good in a suit. But then all of a sudden he's like strapped up in the bulletproof vest holding a gun. I was like, damn, where'd the muscles come from? Holy
Oh.
shit, Sterling K. Brown.
Oh,
man's got
he's
some guns.
jacked.
Yeah, I was like, damn. That came out of nowhere.
He's action role ready.
Yeah, and
absolutely
he even
is.
he went butt naked for a sour sexy, and I was like,
Yeah.
damn, Sterling
He
K.
brought the cheeks out.
You brought the cheeks.
This ain't HBO. What are you doing?
Right.
And that's why it's not on ABC.
Yeah.
It had to be on Hulu. That's why they put out the cheeks.
Hulu and FX getting bold.
I know,
They
right?
getting bold.
But
But you make a really good point about it being that it could have been on ABC, a show that probably would have advertised the gimmick. The first thing that came to mind
Mhm.
after I realized what the twist was like Under the Dome. And it was like in a world where this mysterious dome engulfed this community, what's gonna happen? But
Sawed a cow in half.
and instead of going that route, which we've seen in like cable television, they instead marketed this show as like who killed the president. And they didn't even not one inkling of like this was something else. And
Yeah.
so when people started it, they're like, "Whoa, what is this?" And I feel like that threw a lot of people off guard. By the time I got to it, and probably some other people who came in like weeks later, they knew that something was coming. But I'm sure for the people who were expecting just to watch a murder mystery, were then surprisingly shocked when it was something more than just that. But then at the end of the day, the core of the show was still the murder mystery, which I still appreciate,
Mhm.
but it was an added element to it that just made it just a little bit more interesting. And
Oh,
then as
absolutely.
you continue to watch it, you started to see like some great storytelling. Like we were building up to like the D-Day, so to speak, the day that it happened. Even the episode I believe was called
Oh
The
man, that
Day.
Whoa.
was
Whew.
devastating.
See,
And
was it episode 7 or 8?
it was episode 7.
Yeah.
And
Oof.
and I think what that episode in particular did best, and I was trying to think of it in my head as I was watching it. And I was like, why do I feel like even though we know that this happened, there were we knew throughout the season that there was the day that happened, and there's a lot, especially when it comes to these disaster movies and shows, like there's always keen to go back to the day, or sometimes the shows start with the D-Day and then it pushes from there. But in this particular case, we were hearing a lot of different instances within other people's reaction of the day. But when we finally got to see it, what this did so well that I feel like some movies and shows don't do when they actually show the event is that they were able to bring emotion
Yeah.
that I feel like, because there's one thing of like, we've heard you talk about this event the entire time. The question is, do we actually need to see it? Because through dialogue, we've kind of heard it already. But seeing it added to the emotional stakes that came with everything that came in within this entire season. It also provided some great uh context of some of
Mhm.
the things that happened throughout the season and leading into the finale.
Which Dan Fogelman does very well. Like, and
Yeah.
it just makes you. It's one of those like it makes you rethink about what you thought about
Mhm.
things initially. Like
Yeah.
seeing him go through that with his wife and like oh my god, he's on air. I'm just getting chills just thinking about it. He's on Air Force One talking. He's literally thinking, I'm talking to my wife for the last time. Like,
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
think, putting yourself in that
Heavy.
headspace of like literally the world is literally ending, and I just happen to be on the one plane that's gonna make it, and I'm talking to the one person who I want on this plane and cannot be here, and I have to say goodbye to them as I'm watching the world being destroyed.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
sitting in between your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
like you have to be so not only do you have to deal with saying goodbye to your wife, but you also have to be strong with your kids, which I thought really played out well when James Marsden, when he talks to him before they get on the plane, he's like, I forgot what exactly he says, but he's like, you need to like process this shit.
Yeah.
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 You're gonna live and she's gonna die. I'm sorry, but we have to go.
Yeah, and he was like, "Are you really gonna stay here and let your kids be alone? Your kids need you right now.
It was a
Get it
good
together
point.
and get on that plane."
Yeah, it was fantastic writing. Absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic writing.
And
Oh yeah.
also, talk about James Marsden. What
Mhm.
hell of a role that he
Oh yeah.
had, and he owned that shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people were like, "Oh, he's just the shitty Cyclops, and he's always just the main guy next to a CG character with either Sonic or that Hot Easter movie that came out like I don't know 10 years ago, or whatever."
Both are
But
good
like,
movies, by the way.
but
He was great in
side
Westworld,
note,
I thought.
that's right. He was. I forgot he was in Westworld. He
Yeah.
was good in Westworld. But this role here as the president was probably, in my opinion, one of the best roles I've ever seen him in.
I agree.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree
I
with you. I
agree.
agree with you
He
100%.
gave this kind of like young George W. Bush mixed with
Yeah.
like I don't know, a Bill Clinton type, from like both sides of the coin.
Yeah,
Um,
he was
where
like
he,
this cool president. Yeah, he's
yeah,
like this cool young president that also had a drinking problem.
But
right.
but
So
then
I'm like
what you learn
mixing these
about
two.
yeah, what you learn about with his the things he's going with his dad who's going through dementia, and then like how that generational
Oh, that's
trauma
tough.
is passed on to his son, and how he was like
Mhm.
trying to block that, but his son didn't want anything to do that. I also Julianne Nicholson, who played Sinatra, and I
Oh,
can't, and the other girl, the girl who played the weed. My God, it's so
Yeah,
good.
perfect.
Nicole Brandon Bloom, I
Okay,
believe.
Her
like
middle
literally,
name is Brandon.
Well, Braden, sorry,
Bryden.
Oh, I was about to
BR
say. I was like,
Nicole Braden Bloom.
Yeah.
gotcha, gotcha.
Brandon, can you bring your mic just a little bit closer to you?
A
Yeah.
little bit closer.
Oh, there you go. That's what we want to
There
hear.
it is.
Want to hear you.
That's what we
Want
want.
to hear that voice.
Um, yeah, I mean, and that episode too. It was kind of a shocker when she was like, when who was also poor. What was his name? Uncle Billy. Damn, they did him
Oh,
dirty.
they
I
did.
was yelling at my TV.
Yeah. I was
And
like,
On that
not
one.
Uncle Billy. And
but
like even the episode they started off with like, oh, he's a killer. He's our guy.
Yeah, this guy
But
is
then at
stone
the end
cold.
of it, at the end of the episode, no, he actually likes this life underground because he feel like
Yep,
he can start something new. And then when we learn that, dead.
yep.
I
like,
was like,
By the person
mm,
he least suspected.
oh, they set him up so good. But what another great episode. Like, you
yeah,
got this
Yeah,
person who has like this terrible, troubled past, and he's given a second chance in this world, and he tries to do better, but he's haunted by his past about people's perception of him, and how that's like latched onto him as a character. Sinatra forced him to do all these terrible things, and then he figures out what's going on, and he's like, and he's like, send your biggest and baddest, and then the girl literally says to him
yeah.
as
he's
she's sitting there eating her funnel cake, she goes, I'm right here, your biggest and baddest, as he's literally
was like,
like
that hurt.
convulsing and dying on the ground.
I was like, damn, that's
Yeah,
good. That's
Cold.
good.
But to me, that really subverted expectations, because it's always this like, oh, you think of this big macho person, but you don't think about like the wolf in sheep's clothing. Like, you don't
Mhm.
like
yeah,
she's so unassuming, but she's really a psychopath.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
usually think that I'm good at like detecting those secret people, but that one
Mhm.
caught me all the
A
way off
hundred
guard.
percent. 100%. I 100% agree with you. It wasn't until we were in the scene and she's eating that funnel cake and he started convulsing. I was like, it was
Yeah.
her.
And she played the role so well too because
Absolutely.
she was playing very innocent. She was like
Yeah.
kind of aloof in some scenes. And then it kind of pushes further how much she was a psychopath because crazy things are happening. She was like, "So, I like the Wii, right?" You were like, "What?"
It's not just
She's like,
like,
"What are you
What are
talking
you
about right
talking
now?"
about?
what,
Why
you
are you
crazy
guys
bitch?
playing
What are
Wii
you talking
Sports? The
about?
president is dead, and like, what?
You're
What
worried
are you
about his
doing?
you worried about his Wii?
Right.
It's like, what are we
She's
doing
just
here?
bleeding out on the floor, and you just hear.
She's playing Wii
And then
tennis.
and then yes, the series ended with her shooting Sinatra, and she's
Oh
like,
yeah.
"I guess you should have got me that Wii."
Kind
I
of
was like, "Oh my god."
But also, I think that scene points to how lethal she is because she shot her from across the room
In the
in
exact
a
space that you knew
exactly
she'd
at a
survive.
very precision. She's like, "You're gonna live." She's like, "You're just gonna need you're gonna need to like a breathing machine, but you're gonna be fine." You should have
Yeah.
gave me the Wii.
Right.
And also, Sinatra was a very, interesting character as
She
well
was.
because we also got a little bit of her backstory. We had the tragedy of her son passing at a very young age, and then really at the end of that episode, really killing it, where we know, excuse me, that her son likes to go on
The little
those horse
horses.
the horse
Yeah.
rides, and then all of a sudden you're seeing this town being built, and you just see those little horse rides everywhere around the city, and you're like, "Oh, damn. That's that's for her son that
Yeah.
love that," and they decided to put that in in this, this town that they had to develop. And it was also really interesting to see the therapist's perspective on
Right.
building this town. And then who knew that the person who tried to kill the president in like 4 episodes ago had his own backstory and found his way into the city when this D-Day was happening. And man, that's a cold motherfucker right there.
Right.
And I,
But you got it though. You understood where he was coming from,
yeah,
and you understood how he got to the point of insanity.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
so when he
I
decided
get
to
that. I
like,
get that.
he's like, I can't live with these circumstances anymore. In his eyes, he did his job. He basically killed the president for even killing all these other people that he is, the people that he knew from the site, as well as probably millions of others in his eyes. And then he's like, my work here is done, and this falls off the ledge. And it's like, damn, it's like again, I think what's great about this show is like these characters, they hold on to you in a way and they stick with you for a while. And I was actually quite surprised when I did hear some people saying there was weak storytelling in this show. I was like, where
Where?
is that? Yeah,
wow.
exactly. Where is this? Where you do not like great character development? Like I don't
think
know what's
people get confused where it's like if they think if something can be relatively simple but great, they just think that that's weak instead of
right.
like something super convoluted or anything, and not convoluted, but just like super detailed, like a lot of lore building and deep under scores of things. That's the only way. But like you can tell a simple story where people can point to things that they know by conventional storytelling or design, and it can
Mhm.
still be powerful and amazing and damn good TV, which
Yeah,
Paradise is, in my humble opinion.
Mhm.
I thought that
absolutely.
Sinatra was such a lovable villain, or especially somebody that I loved to hate,
Yeah.
because it's like, dude, you went to therapy and literally deliberately decided to be worse. Like you decided to be a
Yes.
monster.
Yeah,
Like,
and the fact that she even questions, like, "I'm not a monster, I'm just a wife, I'm just a mother." It's like,
right.
"No, lady, you are
Okay,
not." I mean,
Scarlet Witch.
yeah, you are those things. Yes, you are a wife and you are a mother, but you can also be a monster, and you kind of are.
Yeah.
So and
Like
then
that's
she kinda leaned into it too when she
mhm,
was talking to Sterling K. Brown, and she was like, "Your wife is alive." And then she
yeah,
was like, "All right, well, I have your kid now, so,
yeah,
you're gonna do what I say." And you're like, "Oh, you know what? Maybe I am a monster." And you're
yeah,
like, "Damn, man." It's like, again, these are great characters that I'm just
absolutely.
hoping that I think the through line of the season was like who killed the president, and James Marsden was a big part of that. And
Mhm.
now I feel like that story kind of wrapped up. I'm not sure how much we can go into more about James Marsden's
Pretty much.
character when he's already dead,
Yeah.
and the kind of the mystery is solved. And I'm really curious now that we got renewed for season 2. I just hope we didn't lose spark that this season had.
You know where I got a little worried for the season finale? So there was a show, I don't know if you guys ever saw it, called Jericho, that got canceled after like 2 seasons.
Mm,
Sounds
And they
familiar.
kind of have a similar thing where the protagonist like flies an airplane. Like the Jericho's kind of on the same premise. Like
mhm,
usually a sure destruction happened or something like that. These people are in a small village trying to survive together. All this stuff goes, all hell breaks loose. The protagonist flies away in a plane, and that's like the last you see of the show, pretty much. you
mm,
know, but Paradise is so good. I know it's got greenlit for season 2 already. I just wonder where they're gonna go with that now that
right.
he's, airborne supposedly.
It
but
seems like
we'll see.
they've got a direction. Sterling K. Brown, he's gonna go find his wife, and I think James Marsden is just gonna live on through flashbacks,
Yeah.
which is how This Is Us. They have like basically like three sets of cast. They had the adult cast that included Sterling K. Brown. They
Mhm.
had like they had like where they were they have like a kid cast, but it's the same characters. But then
Yeah.
they live on. But then they continue to tell their stories as the kids grow up. They just started telling stories like as the kids were getting older. It was actually pretty genius.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I've
So
only gotten through so many episodes. I can't remember where I stopped. His he let his father back into his life, and then he started learning to play piano and stuff.
yeah, I
Uh,
think we dropped off because, and I'll be honest, it was Kate. Like Kate, his sister, she just became like an unsufferable character that I just couldn't, like, she was just whining and complaining to Toby all the
yeah.
time. I was like, like, just come on, what are you doing? I don't know. It was like 5 or 6 that we dropped off, but what I really liked is how he does his storytelling when he goes back. Like he was able to incorporate them, like not falling into like the Stranger Kid things kids where
Yeah.
they outgrow and they had to redo their storytelling because all these kids grow up. Whereas
Mhm.
it seems like that was like a long term plan. So I say that because I think that there's probably going to be a similar plan for all these great characters to live on through this. Like, James Marsden, he's dead, but there's a lot of in between that they could be telling back and forth. But how long is that going to last? And like,
Right. Yeah.
I see what you're saying, but maybe it won't be as much, but maybe it'll be like very intermittent. Like maybe like once an episode. Even well, I won't even say that because that sounds like a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
Or
I
maybe
mean
it
I
only
mean
lasts like maybe the show only lasts like 2 or 3 seasons too. That was I think maybe that was the issue that This Is Us had. It's like it got to a point where the show became repetitive when they
yeah.
should have found their off ramp to have a
yeah.
good strong ending. So that I like the show so much that I hope I could see it easily going 3, maybe 4. Like
Yeah.
maybe no more than
Solid.
4 seasons.
Yeah,
4
and I also
solid
feel like this
seasons.
could have landed as a limited series. Like, even if we ended it here with the hopefulness of him finding his wife out there, I was been pretty satisfied with that ending. Is just being like, that's what all we have to offer for the show. But I know there's more. I have faith that this can be good, but it has a high bar to cross over of what we have because the only thing we have going off of next season is the search for his wife. So like,
But now we have this whole new landscape that he gets to explore that we as the
true.
audience have not been subject to.
Yeah, we still got to learn what happened everywhere else.
We
Yeah.
all I was gonna say is like we could have an entire 2 or 3 episodes dealing with his wife, the fallout on her end, her
Mhm.
setting up in this new civilization. I mean, that's probably like one episode just of her. But then what
Mhm.
other? I mean, we're gonna be introduced to some new characters. There might be some new characters that are out there that who the people she's with. What if she's with somebody who's like helping her out? I mean,
Yeah.
she's found a community, so safe to say there's probably a bunch of people out there. And then what if it becomes this outside people versus paradise people? The outside people want in, but the paradise people don't want to get in. Like there's a
Winterfell.
lot of there's a lot of different angles that they can explore.
Yeah. Well, and then again, if that includes James Marsden or not, we don't know. But I see your point. Depending on how they do this, it can set up for a good 2 to 3 season arc
Yeah.
for sure. But I mean, all in all, I really enjoyed. This was a great. While when I was sick, I was like, this is holding me over. I'm just here eating my soup and my crackers with some Gatorade and some applesauce.
Just had to get that
And
had to
I
get
was
that
like, we're on to
Walgreens
the next
pizza.
one.
You just had to get that Walgreens pizza, didn't you, Matthew?
That is a long story I am not going to dive into. But all I will say is that if you decide to go to Walgreens at 10 o'clock at night and pick up a frozen pizza, maybe think again. That's all I'm saying.
Your
It might
answer is
knock you
don't.
out for
It
48.
had the skull and bones on the back, Matt. Didn't you see that?
It's like, this is fine.
Right. I'm not cooking tonight.
Throw it in the
You know
oven.
what? Honestly, a lot of places were closed. There was Easter Sunday. I made choices and, put me out for 48 hours. So, yeah,
You clearly regretted it.
that's on me. That's on me. But because of that, I got to watch Paradise for a full day.
Hey,
I
So
guess you know what it
blessing
worked
in
out. It
disguise.
it
it
did.
worked out at the end, I guess. Not for
Yeah.
my stomach, but for my love for television
There
and
you go.
movies and entertainment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this was a great show. And I'm happy that I finally had time to watch it. And I mean, great acting, great storytelling. I look forward to what season 2 has to offer for sure.
Same. Same. And I guess so. We're gonna be moving on to Invincible, which I guess
Oh
I
yeah.
misunderstood. I did not finish watching this show, but I do want to hear the spoiler. I want to hear all y'all spoiler thoughts because my issue is I started this show, like I started season 2, and then I felt like I was lost. Like I felt like I was missing something. Like it just didn't match. To me, it felt unmatched to how season 1 ended. So it's been very hard for me to get back into this show. So I'm still on season 2, episode 1, but I hear the finale of this last season was like some of the best TV that's out there.
Oh my God. Yes.
Brandon, I'll have you kick it off because I feel like I'm gonna be a little bit down the middle with
Okay.
this show, but I want to hear your thoughts and then I'll chime in.
There are so many things that Invincible went through in this season where it was literally an emotional roller coaster of all the things, all the action, the sadness, the change, the growth, the character, like you start to see his morals wavering
Mm.
as he learns from his mistakes. Because there are only so many people you can watch die as a superhero, I'd imagine,
Hmm.
in such grisly ways. And straight up from season 2, episode 1, or season
3.
3.
Yeah, we're on. It just
We're in
finished
season
3.
3, yeah.
Yeah, season 3, episode 1. They just kind of show you like, hey, Mark's getting stronger.
Mhm.
And then throughout the other episodes, they're like, oh, Mark's still getting beat up. But
Yeah.
however, being that he's the superhero known as Invincible, we have to keep things apropos here. So like he's gonna keep on fighting. He's got this love interest in Adam Eve, and that oh sorry, Ernesto. I don't know if
No, you're
well,
fine.
you said you don't mind.
No, I don't
Okay.
mind. I want to hear it
Um,
all.
so this season, I feel like okay, it's gonna require patience of people who get there and kind of expect like everything to be like hard hitting all the time, which I kind of feel like it was. I feel like he had so many different like sort of mini bosses or actual bosses to fight in this season where he's just kind of put through I don't know everything. I don't mean to ramble, but like he goes through like these really tough fights, and then when you think oh he's gonna get a break, it's like nope, here's the next boss. Get back up, there's a second health bar that just generated. Like you're living in Elden Ring. Get back up. So I thought what this season did really well was show the limits that he could be pushed to, show the limits of the side characters that they could be pushed to through
Mhm.
tragedy and drama and everything, because that's who really shines in this season are the side characters and the sacrifices that are made, the things that happen to them, things that happen to the regular people in the show. There's this dude who's played by Aaron Paul.
Oh
I
my
forget
god.
what his name is in the show, but his
Um,
power is basically like he absorbs kinetic energy, I think, and he can use that against people, kind of similar to T'Challa and his suit and everything like that. He can kind of just release this explosive energy the more people hit him. And oh my god, his gripe with Mark is just he like they explain that the tragedy of the finale of season 1 when Omni-Man is beating the crap out of Mark all around the world, it seems, and crashing through buildings and everything. There are real people in their world who suffered that. So Aaron Paul's character comes in and is like, "Yo, my like sister was one of the victims of these, and it's your fault. Um,
Yeah.
and he has this unquenchable thirst for revenge that ends in such a way that, and I know you said that you don't mind the spoilers, but I'm gonna hold off on it because it just hits so hard. Like, why would you show that?
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
that in the show keeps doing that too, where it's like, oh my goodness, I don't know how much more of this I should be watching. Like people are getting just broken in half and splattered and like, and you wonder, what is that doing to Mark? What happens to a superhero who doesn't win all the time in terms of like saving people in the nick of time all the time? People are getting like crushed right in front of him. He's getting pile drive through bodies and getting the first person view of people's blood and guts, like just getting all over him, even to the point where like the people that he loves are on the brink. So I've talked enough. I don't want to take it all up, all the time talking about the show. But like this season, it's for me, it was firing on all cylinders and ended in such a strong spot where I'm like, no, I gotta have more immediately. So
Uh,
yeah,
it's interesting to hear your perspective on the show because I had a different reaction to it. Coming off nothing for me beats the season 1 finale of
oh yeah,
Invincible.
it's
Find it that,
Like the
yeah.
emotional stakes that came with Omni-Man basically beating the shit out of a young Mark that is not only like another superhero, but also his own son,
yeah,
taking him, what you said, basically through the world and murdering countless of civilians in the process and beating the shit out of his own child. It's kind of visceral to watch
yeah,
as we went through that season, and they still to this day and throughout many years later still talk about that moment in the show as like the turning point that for this show. Like this is like for maybe the MCU, for example, the Avengers was it, and we always talk about the what happened in the Battle of New York, and we're always going to refer to that. In this case, for this show, it is the ending of season 1. And then I watched season 2, and I feel like that it never hit those highs in any of those episodes. And I'm going to be honest, season 2 was a little bit forgettable for me. I had to watch a recap when I started season 3,
that's fair.
and I was like, "Oh, that's right. There was that thing that happened and that thing that happened." And like there were a few, some major plot points, and I think somewhat of the Amber storyline of him, like of Mark trying to be a regular person is like, we know that's never gonna work out. So like,
Yeah,
why are we even playing around with this?
Peter
Um,
Parker tragedy.
yeah, exactly. It's not working. Then he ended up going to see his dad in a different planet, and then we get to the point at the end of the season where we see Mark embracing his superhero life as well as his dad's in prison, and he's with Seth Rogen's character, Alan, the whatever the savior, what I forgot what his
Yep.
full name is, or Alan the alien or something.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it, okay. And so, like, he's stuck there with Alan in this prison and, the Viltrumite prison that he's basically gonna get executed, and then the show is over. So then we get into season 3, and I didn't think of it this way until you were describing it, but yeah, this season is basically all about Mark, and I was quite shocked that of one of 2 things didn't happen. 1, we never got the invasion of the Viltrumites. I was like, "Are we not there yet?" Like, we went through a whole 'nother season, and we've been talking about this invasions since season 1, and we're still not here yet? Like, not even an inkling? Not even like, we had that one guy visit at the end of Earth again. I was like,
And
"How many
the
people are
lady.
gonna take a visit?" Well, that was in season 2.
Yeah.
But I was like, "How many visitors are we gonna get to eventually come in and potentially destroy Earth?" Like, they keep talking about this threat, and I'm honestly, I'm kind of over it.
We're
Like,
gonna get it next season. I think
sure,
seriously.
yeah, I can't wait till season 6 when we get there. Like, whatever that is, like, like, at this point, it's a thing that's never gonna happen, and I really hope it pays off of this looming threat that's coming.
Think about it. Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character, why am I forgetting the names
Oh,
of
he was
the
incredible, I'm
Viltrumite?
not gonna lie.
Yeah, and he was like, he's kind of like who you send to just get the job done.
Yeah.
And because he didn't, I would imagine now it's just like, oh, wait, he didn't come back home?
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta send everybody.
Damn, okay. The fact that, J.K. Simmons and Omni-Man only showed up for 1 episode this season, I was
Mhm.
kinda shocked, and it was not even it was barely a half an episode, like, maybe
Yeah,
10 minutes,
right.
of them escaping the prison, and there was a part of me that was also again, you kinda described it very well of, like, this is a Mark season, but I was at the same time, I was like, when are we gonna get to the story? These feels like one-offs to like, this is Mark in this situation, and this is Mark in this situation. And then like, oh, like there's so many different villains that are in this season
Yeah.
that I feel like that each one just keeps bouncing. It's like, oh, there's Sterling K. Brown again, and that storyline that popped up for an episode. And then it's like, oh yeah, that's happening. That was introduced in like season two somewhere. And now we brought this back over for an episode. And there were just some
Oh,
other moments
right.
where it's like it, even though in its standalone nature, it worked for the episode, but I was like, I feel like what I was missing was the drive. Like in the sense that as we were talking with Paradise, there was
Mhm.
always like there's other things that were happening, but at the same time, it was like, well, we're still on this murder mystery of who killed the president. And I guess case of Invincible, there's still this looming threat that the Viltrumites are coming.
Yeah.
But I feel like after 3 seasons, like if we got to season 3 of Paradise and we still don't know who murdered James Marsden, I would be a little upset. I was like, "All right, we get it. It's a mystery, but like, how long are you gonna stretch this out?"
It's more so building the context around Mark's emotional arc and which way it's gonna go. Because
Yeah.
one of the last lines that he spoke, he said, "Next time
Mhm.
when a threat comes, I will not hesitate to kill them," or something like
Right,
that.
and you're right because the entirety of the season and his character was that he doesn't kill people.
Yeah.
To the fact that he got to that point at the end of the season was pretty big as far as a character arc, and I think that's where I'm missing where you enjoyed it, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" Is the fact that this whole season is a Mark emotional arc.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that he's losing, the fact that he's trying
And
excuse me,
he's
the
like,
fact that he's trying to be an older brother,
mhm,
and none of it is working the way that he wants it to, and honestly there was, like, just a lot of randomness that was going on here, but what really sold it for me was that episode with Aaron Paul. Like, that just
yeah,
showcased the emotional weight that back to that season 1 finale brought to here, and Aaron Paul brought so much gravitas,
yeah, he
and the
did.
way that that episode ended
That was rough.
was emotionally heart-wrenching,
Yeah.
and then it was backed up with 2 more hard-hitting episodes with the invasion of the Marks.
No breaks.
No breaks, yeah, and then after that, we have that the Viltrumite played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who was just plummeting just like back in Omni-Man at the season 1 finale, just
Yeah.
punishing Mark and was just, like, beating him to a pulp, and honestly, what he ended up doing with Adam, Eve, you're like, when you see that, you're like,
Yeah.
"Whoa!" Like, granted, obviously, things moved on from there, but, like, just visually seeing that, a
Yeah.
character we saw throughout for the next 3 seasons
Mhm.
was kind of, like, eye-opening, like, kind
Yeah,
of
these
heartbreaking.
Viltrumites' hands are rated E for everybody, and they made that clear on that finale. I was like, "Oh my god, what is happening?"
Yeah,
And
it's like, Jesus,
I gasped, like, so many times. I was like, "What?"
yeah, I feel like as a whole, I just feel like I just want some more cohesive storytelling. Because even at the very end of the finale, they were like, "And there's more threats coming. Remember those squids?" Like, "No." "Well, they're back." Like, "Really?" Like, "Why?"
Yeah.
It's like, "They're gonna take over your mind again." It's like, "Oh, alright, I guess." I thought we were done with the
You
squids,
gotta
but
keep the
alright.
side characters busy, you gotta keep Mark busy, and the thing is like you said, the looming threat, like, the dinner bell has been rung. The
Yeah,
Viltrumites knew about Earth ever since Omni-Man got assigned there, but now especially his son, Mark, is, like, getting stronger and stronger, and they want him to get stronger.
yeah,
It's like, it's either, "Hey, you either dominate this planet," which you've already refused,
yeah,
or we send our, envoys or our heralds of destruction to come to Earth and regulate. But since you killed them all, or since you keep
yeah.
defeating them, we're
It
gonna come. And
it's
like,
it's
oh, go ahead.
No, I'll say it's weird that a lot of people say that this might be the best season out yet of Invincible. And it's hard for me to agree with that because there was like issues that I had with it. Like as a season in its entirety, I guess, yeah, I guess there were a lot of better episodes than I had seen in the previous seasons. But as a whole, I feel like it was still disconnected. And I feel like I'm bashing the season, but at the same time, I did enjoy what I watched and I will continue to watch the show. So it's not like I'm ending it anytime soon, but like there's a lot of great stuff in here. I just wish it was more connected because all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, Sterling Kane Brown is back. Okay, sure. Like he was a threat in the previous season, and then we haven't really seen him or heard him or this entire season. Like all of a sudden he's back. It's like, oh yeah, okay, sure, yeah, let's bring him back for an episode. So yeah, I just hope that there's more cohesiveness in the season 4. But at the same time, if this is what we're getting, I'm still going to be here to watch it. At this point, I'm 3 seasons deep. I'm gonna like I gotta see how it ends. Like I gotta see what the Viltrumites end up showing
You've
up.
already made the down payment. You're
Yeah,
still in the lease.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But yeah, do you think this was the best season so far?
That's really tough. I'm gonna I'm gonna say, just to pick one, I'm gonna say yes, and only because they built on top of everything else that they already established prior to in a
Hmm.
way that mattered and progressed the story forward and made Mark go from here to here.
Mm,
And we're questioning now, like, oh, where's his psyche at? Like he he had that moment where he just snapped and kind of became wild while he was like doing the headbutts of doom
yeah.
with blood spraying everywhere. And you can see in the animation and the voice acting and everything,
Hmm.
like, oh, he's different right now. And
Yeah.
what does that mean? What are the implications for moving forward if he's really about his word and he says, I'm not going to do this whole little, pulling my punches Spider-Man thing.
Mm.
You all are getting cracked on the first you land on my planet. I am breaking every bone in your body, basically.
Yeah.
Like what happens now? I think that the way that they took that fight, how they surprise you after he successfully gets Sterling K. Brown's character out of here. I keep forgetting the villain's name.
Yeah, I forgot his
Um,
villain name too.
like minutes later, I think he has to fight a new Viltrumite who's the
Yeah.
scariest one to
Yeah.
come yet. And then you see the animation turn up because it's important. His
Yeah, you know,
hair's
right?
whipping in the wind and
Yes,
everything.
I made that same notice too. I was like, damn, they got a budget for this finale.
Yeah,
All right.
so I would give it my the grade that it gets the best because they also let you get to know Cecil a little bit better. It's like, oh, this guy's
True.
not
They did give him a
just an
backstory.
asshole. He's like
Yeah.
he was kind of like the Captain America back in his day where he was this super noble agent and everything and he could change people's hearts and he's the one to lay down on the barbed wire. He's the one to stay back with the nuke or whatever
Yeah.
and all the things that he went through which provided context for his philosophy that
Mhm.
he learned from his prior mentor who said, hey, you either get to be the good guy or you get to save the world. And he's trying to teach Mark that as this old seasoned veteran. And Mark's
Yeah.
like, no, I want to be the good guy. And then at the end of the season, Mark's
Mhm.
like, okay, old man Cecil probably had a point. I can't,
Yeah.
I
You know
can't
what?
do the good thing, guy thing. Mhm.
I've always been team Cecil. That's just me.
Yeah.
I was like, Mark, you going crazy. Just listen to the old man. All right. That's all I gotta say.
What he was
Uh,
doing with those humanoid zombie bots things, I was like,
yeah.
oh, I don't know, Cecil. That's a little dirty, Cecil.
Yeah.
But this season, I'm like, Cecil's got a point.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think he's on to something.
Yeah.
But Ernesto, did we convince you to continue watching the show?
You did convince me. I think
Invincible. Okay.
I'm gonna give it another chance. And Sterling K. Brown's character, he plays Angstrom Levy.
Angstrom Levy. Yeah.
He's a villainous
That's right.
Thank you.
That's right.
villainous character introduced in season 2,
Yeah.
who is
He
an
is such a
alternate
menace.
reality version of Mark Grayson.
What?
Well, that's what this says.
Super spoiler. What? I don't know. I still doubt it. I don't know.
Oh,
Oh,
is that not is that like a big spoiler?
well, I guess it is now.
I looked up Sterling K.
Yeah.
Brown.
Well, I still don't know how they're gonna show that came to be. So there's still like the wonder of like how
Yeah, maybe they
and
altered
it's
that
AI
in the
overview,
show.
so
Maybe that's
I'm
the
Yeah.
maybe that's
fake
the
news.
comic book.
Just
Maybe
kidding.
they haven't just sorry.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh,
I
did I
assumed that
did
they
I
got-
just?"
I assumed that they got there because I said
drops
Sterling
the
K.
biggest
Brown.
spoiler that nobody
Yeah.
knows.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, they did what?
It's like
I mean, all I
million
said was
issues
who does
ahead.
all I said was who is Sterling. I put Sterling K. Brown Invincible, not like who's the character in the Invincible comic book series. Like
The
I
problem
went.
with these AI overviews.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Would you like
They're so
me to
useful, but
50
so
issues
dangerous.
ahead?
Oops.
But yeah, I
Sorry.
am looking forward to season 4. They did confirm it's coming in 2026. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're still here for it. I'm sure. Again, I feel like I'm a little bit of a stickler, but I did enjoy watching, and there was a lot of great stuff in there. So
Yeah.
But yeah, let's now move on to Daredevil episodes 5 sorry, episode 5.
Episode 5.
We're gonna episode way past that. We're gonna be talking about Daredevil Born Again as in previous episodes we've been doing our weekly binges as we call it. And we're wrapping up our weekly binge on Daredevil with episode Daredevil Born Again with episodes 8 and 9. So Brandon, we'll kind of start with you on kind of your overview thoughts of the whole series as a whole, and what your thoughts on it, and then we'll specifically talk about episode 8 and 9 in a little bit.
So I love me some Daredevil. I do think that the Disney Plus version of Daredevil is overall weaker than the Netflix series. It wasn't as gripping to me, but what they did right in terms of having to bring him back and sort of like revitalize that story and whatnot, was kind of add to that. Like they really leaned in on those like sensory details. They really, made a bold choice right on the first episode of like, hey, here's who's staying, here's who ain't. And
Mhm,
here's how we're gonna test Matt Murdock's morals too, just like we were talking about in Invincible. Like, oh, what would
mhm.
push a hero to kind of go against what we thought their morals might have been? And in the Netflix series, we always saw him kind of struggling with it, just like, should I like, Kingpin? Like he's a really bad person. Should I do this to uh God, why can I not remember any villain names right now?
uh,
Not Deadshot, not
Bullseye.
Oh,
Bullseye.
Bullseye. Is it
Bullseye, it
Bullseye?
is Bullseye. Okay.
Bullseye.
I'm like mixing DC and Marvel in my head. Oh my god. Sorry guys.
Oh,
But
you're good.
yeah, this Daredevil Born Again, I thought it was really good. Um, and this might sound brutal and people might hate me for it, but like wasn't quite great in the way that I thought that it might
Mhm,
be.
Mm.
And I think the thing that would have taken it there a bit more is for one, and I hate to be the guy to complain, is just like, oh, they didn't show enough Daredevil fighting and everything. But one of the things that I was looking forward to was like, hey, maybe they can have a balance of like Matt Murdock during the daytime when he's like doing his job, for the law, and Matt Murdock at night when he's like fighting crime and everything.
yeah.
They told a good story in terms of like, hey, let's show you the people of New York and what they're going through and why it matters that it's bad that Mayor Fisk is a thing and how those parallels tie into, like the world today and how people respond to politics and what happens when things go bad in the city and Mayor Fisk's whole initiative against vigilantes and what that looks like on a street level. I thought that was really interesting, but to me it wasn't really enough to really have me hooked. I kind of felt like I was just watching it because it's like, I just really want to know what's going on,
Mm.
but it didn't really just punch me in the chest like Daredevil Netflix did. And I know that these are like, for the most part, I think the same showrunner, same writer and
Mm.
everything. I think. No?
No.
Oh, what?
No, no,
Man.
there was
Okay.
so it's funny what you're mentioning now, in case you didn't know, they had to go through reshoots, and so they had one showrunner for
Mhm.
the first version of the show, and
Yeah.
then Kevin Feige started to look at it, and they were like, "Well, this isn't really the show that we were wanting to do," so they hired new showrunners, and
Oh,
they did a little bit of a course correction.
yeah.
So, within that course correction, they went back and filmed a few things, and also Vincent D'Onofrio was at this point was very public where he was like, "Yeah, I'm not happy with this version of Daredevil."
Oh,
And
yeah.
so and he complained to Feige is like, "We need to change what this is," because basically what they were doing was turning the show into a lawyer procedural week after week, and claiming that Daredevil wasn't even in the suit until like episode 6 or 7.
Oh my
Um,
god.
Which is
and
not too
so
far off from what happened
It's
in the
not.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what ended up happening, which you can maybe feel some sort of disconnect as we continue our, wrapping up Daredevil Born Again, is that episode 1, 8, and 9 were part of the reshoots.
Mhm.
So if it
Mm.
feels different, because it was. So
Gotcha.
they were able to interweave the story between episodes 2 and 7 through to 7 to the old version of the show, but sprinkle in some extra scenes to kind of mold what the new version that they want it to be. So there was a few extra added things from my understanding that was added between episodes 2 and 7. Others were just left as alone because it still works for the overall arc of it, but because the bulk of the show was already filmed,
Yeah.
they had to kind of do a pivot. And then within that, they had to redo the premiere, which was entirely new, and then they had to then they basically redid the finale, which was 8 and 9. So if all of a sudden you felt like, wow, Bullseye was in the premiere and then all of a sudden was in the finale, that's the reason, because
Gotcha.
Karen, Foggy, Punish no, I think Punisher was involved, but Karen,
Mhm.
Foggy, and Bullseye were never part of the original show. They weren't bringing back those characters. It wasn't
Mhm.
until eventually they got their head on straight and was like, maybe we should not ignore the Netflix series,
Yeah.
and we should incorporate that into our, what the identity of the show is, because people are gonna if you're already bringing back Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox, and you are like John Bernthal as the Punisher, yeah, then all of a sudden a lot of people are just gonna relate it to the new to the what was before. And I remember John Bernthal, he even said that he denied
Yeah.
returning back for Daredevil
I
Born
did
Again
see that.
because he didn't like he didn't like what that character they were doing for that show, the old version of the show. He's like, "No, I'm good." When they did the reshoots and they restructured it, he's like, "Oh, I'll come back for that." And
Gotcha.
that's what ended up happening. So to feel that it was disconnected, yeah, those are valid concerns and thoughts, because that's exactly what happened.
Gotcha.
But with that, Ernesto, let's kind of dive specifically into episode 8.
Okay, so episode 8, Isle of Joy. So this is after the black and white ball. Matt takes a bullet for Fisk, and he's in the middle, and this is where he uncovers that Vanessa is the one who hired Bullseye to take out Foggy. Um, yeah, I mean, I thought it was an overall good episode. We're kind of like building up to this point. We get Bullseye, who's got he's escaped prison. Um, yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it just to me, I think like I was still kind of I felt like the end, and this is kind of like so. I'll kind of episode 9 is straight to hell. This is the finale. He's declared like martial law, outlawing vigilantes, and they do this thing where they start rounding people up, and then we get this like we really see Fisk fully become Kingpin. I feel like this is
Mhm.
like he is like this. The whole thing is born again. It's like both of them have been. This is the culmination of them both being born into this role again. Because as we see, as he Kingpin takes on Commissioner Gallo. Is that his name? I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, where his secretary or whoever chief of staff, she sets him up, and he comes up, and we basically get what I think is Born Again's recreation of the Netflix car door scene. Because that to me,
Yeah.
that's like one of the most standout things. It's even like the same like part of the body where
Yeah.
instead of
Mhm.
slamming his head into a car door, he just crushes it with his hand. When I think they're leaning more into the comic book of like his brute physical strength, which we saw in Hawkeye when he gets
Mhm.
blasted by a rocket and like pretty much lives. It's kind of like that same deal. I mean, he uses his pure brute strength and crushes this man's skull in a very horrific fashion. I would argue that I think the car door scene was a little bit more. I think there's more of a brutality to that scene because I don't know. It's like that far. We were like not right there, like not on top of him, but we're far away enough that we're watching that thing happen. Whereas like this is like in your face, and it gets to a point where like you see his eyes bulging red, and then eventually his skull just like caves in, and it's just like I think I need to go to bed. Like I
Yeah.
don't know.
I had to watch something happy after that.
I was
I
like,
was
this
like,
is.
"Boy."
But I think just between both episodes, I think I wanted like more of a resolution. Like it seems like
Mhm.
episode 8 and 9 is a setup for this Born Again season 2 because it's
Yeah.
like, Kingpin is in full swing. He's basically like taking over. We got and I wanted more from John Bernthal, Frank Castle. Although like I
Same.
loved his he has this monologue where when Matt confronts him, I believe it's uh four
Episode 4, I
episode
believe.
4
Yeah.
or 5. I mean, I thought it was just a great scene of like kind of really explaining their relationship and like Frank Castle's take on like trauma and like
Yeah.
how he deals with that as Punisher, the character, and why he and really like understanding like why Daredevil and Punisher kind of like see the same eye to eye. Like they're kind of very similar, but they have their vast differences. Where Punisher is like just killing people, like when they're in the apartment, he's just killing people left and right, and like Daredevil's like yelling at him, like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "What?" Bang! He's just killing, just taking everybody out. He's like, "I'm sorry, did you say
I'm gonna chop
something?"
him up, Red.
Yeah. Does he deserve to live?
Right. Like,
What
whoa, buddy, I know this is your thing, but calm
Like,
down.
whoa, Frank.
Yeah.
I thought you went to therapy.
Yeah.
What's interesting about, like, even comparing it between, like, episodes 8 and 9 is that I thought episode 8 was so well orchestrated, and and to me, like, even watching it, comparing it to, like, where the restructure was, I was like, "Oh, you can tell they did some restructuring." But all
Hmm.
of a sudden, like, you put Bullseye back into the mix, you see him break out of prison, you see Matt Murdock kind of unhinged without
Yes.
that episode too, because he, like, goes to Bullseye. Bullseye's pleading for his, like, help, and he just, like, smashes his head
Oh, yeah.
into, like, into the room, and he's like, he tripped and then walks away. It's like, "Damn, Matt Murdock."
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he's like, he's the Kingpin is back, he's concerned about him, then he obviously, Bullseye breaks out of prison, he uses his teeth to spit out a projectile in front of somebody.
Do you think that Matt Murdock did that on purpose so that he
I
would
don't
break out?
know. That's a great question.
Because
Wait, did what on purpose?
did he smash his head on the table to break his tooth loose so that because I mean Daredevil knows. So
Oh, I see what you mean.
I mean his all his senses, he could have sensed that he broke his tooth very
Yeah.
easily. Or at least if he cracked it or something, knowing that Bullseye has that capability. I don't know. It just seemed too
Honestly, it goes
orchestrated.
either way. Like,
Like
I
it
can
seemed
see
very
him doing it on
orchestrated.
purpose and not.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
kind of
Yeah.
like the Inception, like spinning top situation in a way where, like, well, just like Matt said, like open for interpretation. Because I, for one, don't think that Matt Murdock would have put the lives of like security guards in danger to get
Mm,
him out of jail.
Okay,
But
that's
I can
fair.
also see how it's just like, him doing that could have led to, I don't know, them saying like, "Hey, he's unsafe. Put him in somewhere where he could definitely escape," or whatever. I don't know, but I don't think he would have done that on purpose and like gotten other people killed.
Because
yeah,
we didn't see him deal with that. Like I don't remember him, and maybe it's just because it's been a few weeks, but like I don't remember him like saying like, "Well, this is my fault." Like he's out because of what I did. Like
yeah.
he seemed like, "Oh, okay, yeah, Bullseye's here. He's out. Good. Like
Gotta get shot.
all according to plan."
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's almost like he got him out because he wanted to know who killed Foggy, and if he got him out, then Bullseye would have went to the person who did it, and then I think he realized throughout that process it was, Vanessa who ordered the hit and not maybe Kingpin, and then eventually him saving Kingpin, and I just feel like that Charlie Cox is such an does always does an amazing job of playing Matt Murdock, but that episode in particular, I feel like they were just building up to this moment, and they did it so well. And he was being an asshole to his girlfriend the entire time. He's like,
Yeah.
"Matt, look at me." He's like, "Kingpin." He's over there.
And,
What do you mean? Look at you, I'm blind.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the only
That's what
reason
I
why
would
I
say.
thought that he was doing it on purpose because as you mentioned like he was unhinged, like
Yeah,
he was already gone off the deep end, so he's liable to make decisions that he will later
Heather.
regret.
Oh yeah, everything would be
Heather's her
over.
name. I was trying to figure out.
Heather,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and I feel like especially when you're in the dinner scene, not dinner, in the banquet scene, and like even him, he got him riled up. He was like his his uh I forgot what's his name. His handler, his Buck is his name.
Mm.
Um, he goes to Heather's house to do an invite to go to the banquet for Heather, and then that's when Matt realized like, hey, are you is Wilson Fisk your patient? He don't trust him. He's an evil man. Like you can tell that rattled him so much.
Yeah.
There's even a thought that's like the Kingpin purposely seek out Heather, knowing that she was dating Matt just to get under him.
Yes.
Another one of the situations that we don't know that for sure, but
Yeah.
it kind of makes it assume that as well. And then also, I also believe in that episode of Vanessa killed um Adam, I believe his name
Yes.
was. As yeah, and it's like, oh, poor Adam. You're just trying to have a good time. You didn't know you were cheat. She was married to Wilson Fisk, and then in order to
Remember,
prove,
Adam.
yeah, and then to prove her love for Wilson, kills him himself, and was like, no more therapy. We're back. We're a healthy relationship again. We're back, baby. Um, only for Matt Murdock to just completely just go off the rails. And I think coming off of like even that, because I think the episode before that was Muse, and that was kind of like a weak ending for
Yeah.
the character of Muse, and
It's
then
very
like to come
underwhelmed.
off of like, okay, they kind of wrapped that story up, but then like now back to the restructure, and they brought out like, to me, the big guns here is like, oh, this is like great storytelling. It was such a build up to then now get to episode 9, where I feel like we just went down
Yeah.
on that buildup. I was like escalating, escalating, and then wait, come back for season 2. And I was like, damn, man. It's like I
Yeah.
didn't get a satisfying conclusion because they're like we had Matt Murdock's escape from the hospital, and then all of a sudden I just felt like random moments because they had to squeeze it in here because of the restructure, and it just didn't. It felt uneven. Like all of a sudden it's like John Bernthal's back. It's like, is he back just because it's the finale? Like we had to see him in action because that's what the fans been wanting. And then Karen pops out. It's like, I heard you're in the hospital. Okay, sure. What are you doing? You're just here to start a triangle between Matt Murdock and Frank Castle there for a little bit. And then all of a sudden we're like, now the band's back together. Karen said to come look after you. I was like, because he was in the hospital? I'm sure he's been in worse situations
Where's
than
night
that.
nurse? That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, also, we were searching for Hector Ayala's murder, and we just happened to find him in this middle of this action sequence. It's like, it was you. You killed Hector, right? It just
Yeah.
felt like we were searching for him, and like, oh hey, you're here. You did.
There
it.
you are.
Let's
What do you know?
handle this now.
Yeah, and then on top of that, there was like, and now we're gonna address the fake, like the people who honored or loved the Punisher, and like they were using him as a symbol
hmm
for their own. I forgot what exactly that group was called, but all of a
Oh,
sudden we're giving him a moment to justify that as he gets captured and then has to make a decision. I was like, where did all this come from? Like, yeah, it was kind of mentioned, but now we're just boiling all this into one. It just felt it was a little bit all over the place. And then all of a sudden we have Wilson Fisk squashing heads, and then we see Daredevil going out, and he's like, okay, we have to take him down. And Karen's like, no, we can't do that. And then Daredevil's like, you're right. We need an army. See you in season 2. And
Oh
you're
wait.
like,
Oh
oh,
man.
okay, sure.
so they're
Yeah,
bringing
we
the
need an army.
defender. They're
That's all
bringing the
right. So
defenders together. That's probably what I'm thinking. Maybe that will happen.
say it again.
They're gonna get the defenders together. Defenders are gonna
Yeah,
get back
that seems
together.
the likelihood of that's most likely happening.
Yeah.
Either that or even bringing out some of the other characters that we've seen. Moon Knight will be of
Did Peter
I think.
Parker have the stomach bug doing all of this? Where was he?
I know
Like,
the
where
city
are
went.
we in time in the Marvel timeline? Like, they're in New York.
Yeah.
Is he off planet again or something? Like, where are you, Peter?
Where's
I
Doctor
know
Strange? The
everybody
city.
forgot about you because of the fancy little spell, but like, you're still Spider-Man. So
Yeah.
Yeah, the city goes dark, and no other hero is anywhere to be found. Like, come
right.
on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very curious how this show will handle like the reign of Wilson Fisk. And we're just gonna ignore that there are other superheroes that don't live in New York. They're just gonna be like, "What's a kingpin?" It's like, seriously? Like you're gonna have to address that as you are a collective universe.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have to
Barnes
address
is a
that.
politician now.
Yeah, it's like he's yeah, exactly. And so a lot of people are like, "Oh man, Spider-Man's gonna be in season 2 of Daredevil." Get the fuck out of here. No, he's
That's not
not.
happening.
Get that thought out of your mind. I would love in a year to eat my words, and all of a sudden I see Tom Holland in that season. But I'm a
You
realist,
don't
and it's
see
like,
it.
it's not happening.
Right.
Well,
He's
as
just
some,
always magically going to be too busy for street level crime.
but the problem is
Yeah.
that at a certain point it needs to happen because Kingpin is actually a Spider-Man villain. Like he's a big
Mhm.
Spider-Man villain.
Big time.
Yeah, so like some of Spider-Man's greatest good stories have to deal with Kingpin and his interactions with him, or even like the Daredevil
Fingering my
Spider-Man.
Daredevil
Daredevil,
interview.
yeah, Daredevil and Spider-Man cross over many times in the comic books. Like, when's that shit gonna happen? Like, they're in
I
the
mean,
same
it
city.
did happen briefly in No Way Home, so they do know each other.
I don't count
That shit don't count.
that.
That does not count.
I'm a really good lawyer. Put the
Oh, look,
suit
I
on
caught
and
this
shut
brick.
up, man.
I caught this brick coming out the window.
Right.
How'd you do that? I'm a really good lawyer.
I'm a really good lawyer.
Get out of here.
Or in She-Hulk, where he just flies down in the just random yellow suit and has this
green
affair with
cheeks.
her, it's like smacking those green cheeks.
Oh my god.
What's that in the sky? Is that a naked hot dog with just condiments out there?
Oh my god.
uh anyway, uh I never was a fan of the yellow and white, the yellow and red suit. Um
Mustard.
mustard.
Mustard. Okay, sorry.
Even though there are a lot of people, not a lot of people, there are leaks of the filming of season 2 right now, but and
Uh-huh.
he's rocking that all black Daredevil suit with the DD on it. I
Oh
was like,
Mm.
ooh,
yeah. Oh
that looks
yeah.
nice. But yeah, it's I definitely feel like coming into the finale, it felt, unfortunately, Marvel does this all the time. We have either great setups, great singular episodes, but when it comes to wrapping up a season, it just never hits the mark. And clearly, I can maybe give this season a pass of being a little bit disconnected and disjointed because of the fact that they went through reshoots and at least I publicly knew that like episode 1, 8, and 9 were different from 2 through 7.
Mhm.
So now I'm like, okay, I'll give you the pass here for being a little bit disconnected and not being a full connected story. But now going into season 2, you're telling me this is the same showrunner, you have your shit in order, you have an idea what we're doing, so season 2, I'm expecting big things, because there's a lot about Daredevil Born Again I did like.
Yeah.
Like, I love the Hector Ayala episode.
Oh
Like, I
yeah.
Oh
love
yeah.
like, it was fantastic writing and, like, kind of isolated in a court case is like, yeah, that's really cool. That's something in Daredevil, like, the Netflix show, we never really got except for when he was being the Punisher's lawyer.
Yeah.
After that, we were really focusing on the Daredevil aspect of it, which was a lot of season 3, which I absolutely love season 3 of the Netflix season of Daredevil.
Yeah.
And now we're trying to bring back some of those elements, and you can definitely see there was a course correction there. And now that okay, this is now you've cemented this identity of what this show is. I'm expecting big things going into season 2. Whether that's bringing back the Defenders, whether that's giving us more concentrated storytelling within the characters that we know, it's like the possibilities are endless here. But I do feel like for me, there's a little bit of an expectation of I would like to see some of the MCU in here in this gritty Marvel world that you kind of presented. Like, if the Defenders show up, that would be great, but I am expecting a little bit more than just the Defenders showing up, in my opinion.
Mm.
I like with these shows, right? Especially as the MCU starts to show its darker side or gritty, which is funny because I remember when Kevin Feige, like all those years ago, said, "Oh, Marvel will never go dark." Like, well,
Mhm.
Wrong.
Here
here
we
we
are.
are. But I kind of worried about like if something becomes a bit too like Disney-fied, which
Mm.
even though Daredevil Born Again is a really dark tale at times, when there's the dialogue happening, when they're all suited up in the episode 9 Straight to Hell, and they kind of get up, like the banter between Punisher and Daredevil didn't seem it didn't seem like natural in the way that it
Mhm.
it just was happening when they were I forgot the Semper Six Semper Systema, season 1, episode 4 of Born Again. There's like this vast, stark difference, and I forgot the reshoot episode that you were saying, but, like, you've got this you've got jokes in that episode, so it's still like, hey, this buddy banter and everything, but everything feels
Mhm.
so natural where it's just like, "Oh, this is, like, incredible writing. I'm still
Yeah.
thinking about it after all this time." And
Yes.
I get that when they're in the moment, they're suited up and they're just around criminals, you can only fit in the witty stuff, but it just kinda it still felt off to me, like, where Punisher was just being cosplayed by somebody else who just happened to
Yeah.
look like John Bernthal. And then they give Daredevil a couple of lines where I'm hoping that that gets better in the future and that they really just give the original showrunners and everything just, like, full reign, like, "Hey, we know you can do this. We saw the Netflix shows. We
Yeah.
saw your viewership. we won't meddle in this again. We learned our lesson from season 1 of Daredevil Born Again. And season 2 should be, like you said, way better when you up the stakes.
Yeah.
Even if they don't want to like go too far out of the realm of grounded superhero stories. Like they can still do a lot and make something great, hopefully. Knock on wood.
Yeah, especially as we're going into Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars, it comes to the question of like, are we even going to include any of these characters? We expect for a lot of the MCU to kind of be connected in these moments, but
Mhm.
will that be with now with the addition? When we were going into Infinity War and Endgame, we only had the movies. Now going into Doomsday and Secret Wars, there's so much more than just the movies now. There's all these shows and all these more characters. Like, what are you deciding to put into place here? Kind of, uh, yeah, yeah. Are we trying to bring back everybody, or are we still keeping certain characters isolated? And as much as I love seeing Daredevil in his own story, I would also love to see him interact with other heroes. And I don't know if they are willing to bring certain characters into this grittiness, as like we saw Kingpin in Hawkeye and Echo, and we saw Daredevil in Spider-Man and She-Hulk. But can other characters now be in their world that that Marvel created for itself in this gritty New York, when we also see a happier New York in some other, not happier, but like, not as gritty as that.
Real quick, have you watched the Arrowverse, like the show Arrow with Green Arrow and everybody
I
from the
Yeah,
mean,
DC comic side?
it's been a while,
to a
but yeah, I've seen
point,
it.
yeah.
Like, it's just because like that show, I remember I got into it late, right? So I'm like binge watching season after season, and you can see what happens when they start to blend the worlds a bit, where it's like, oh well,
Mhm,
here comes the Flash, and it's like, well, Arrow can't keep up with that in reality and everything. And then
yeah,
there's like, oh, here comes Supergirl, here comes and then the show just kind of got like really like, oh, it's not what it was when it started. We're not getting the
mhm.
salmon ladder challenge that Stephen Amell is doing or whatever anymore. Um, and so I wonder about that with Daredevil too. I really wonder. I know that that's going to present like quite a challenge, and unless they're going to give them like a bajillion-dollar budget to like have these other characters, I don't know. I can imagine Hawkeye
Mhm.
being in there, or even like I don't know any New York Avengers that'll be in that area or whatever. But I just don't see them doing like a big old like, hey, here's big monster or villain in New York. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Daredevil, you're up. I think that they're just gonna find more thrilling levels of street level crime, or the hand, or any of those little characters that call for bullets and batons and roundhouse kicks and
yeah.
close quarter combat in hallways.
And
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
steroids.
you mentioned Hawkeye. Like, technically, Hawkeye could easily be a part of this world, but are we actually going to see him like throw a bow and arrow and it go through someone's skull? They're not going to do that. They've already
Right.
established this character
Yeah.
as something else. Like, if we see that happen, we're like, whoa, what happened to you? I mean, we know you were Ronin, but
You got
like,
your family back, man. What are you
y-
I
doing?
know.
you were just seeing Rogers the musical just last week. So
But
yeah,
I
it's very interesting.
but I do feel like that they underutilized Muse. Like
Mhm.
we got this build up, and then I'm doing research online. I'm like, damn, he's like this great villain. He's supposed to be like. I watched this video online that basically told me that Muse is like is like his version of the Joker. He's got like he can't he like, but they took all his like supernaturalness that he has in the comics. They took that away from him. Like apparently, like Daredevil can't really sense him. Like it's hard for him to sense him because he can be so quiet and like I was like he didn't have any of that. He
No.
didn't Daredevil didn't
He
even
can
kill
be
him. His
flesh
girl
rip
did.
you.
His girl shot him, and then that was it.
Yeah.
It's like oh, Muse is
Right in the
dead.
chest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go back
And
to Kingpin.
it's almost like that, like the previous version of the show really wanted to build up Muse, and then the restructure is like, oh, we got to get this guy out of here. We got Bullseye
That's
back,
what
and
the
we got to,
MCU keeps doing, and I hate it.
Yes.
yeah,
Well, this villain's got to die. This is a really intriguing villain. Be
Yep.
terrible if somebody killed him.
yeah.
It's like,
At this point, it's like, I don't know, maybe maybe not kill him, just like put him in jail. Like,
Yeah.
give them the option.
Superman.
Go the invincible route. Nobody dies in that show until they do. And then when you thought they're dead, they're not. So,
Yeah.
like, just do that route. And then we can keep creating stories for them forever, like every other comic book out there. Like,
Mhm.
a superhero and a supervillain are never dead.
Right.
And we're just gonna keep it that way.
Yeah.
So, like, the fact that they do kill off kind of major villains, in a way, when you look at Iron Man 3, for example, with the Mandarin, they kind of rectified that when they came out with Shang-Chi. But before that, a lot of people were like, oh yeah, Mandarin. And then you're like, oh no,
He's a
what did you
goofy
do?
actor who's pretending.
So
Yeah.
does this make you hopeful for the state of the MCU? Like, because Brave New World was underwhelming.
Yeah.
Thunderbolts,
Mhm.
I have hopefulness. I am hopeful for Thunderbolts only because
For
it's an
nothing good
A20,
things.
it's an A24 film. So it's different. But
Well, let's be clear. It's basically like an A24 film. It is not from A24.
correct. Um, but then, like Fantastic Four, like the things that I'm seeing, I
I
don't
can't wait.
like. I am like I'm
You're not feeling it.
reserved. I'm a little reserved,
Cautiously optimistic.
cautiously optimistic, and it's only recently because I saw an interview. I read some interview about uh Joseph Quinn and how he's like trying to rewrite Johnny Storm.
Emotional Johnny Storm.
It's like,
Not
so you're
buying it.
taking away the one thing, the one humanizing aspect of Johnny Storm. Like you took away his arc, because part of like his arc is like he becomes like this asshole, and then he through time he becomes like this
More
great hero.
mature.
Yeah, he becomes
Yeah.
like a like
Yeah.
you
Jesus
took
like.
yeah, you took his fucking growth away. Like, I don't know, like he's supposed to be problematic at first, and
Right.
then you build to make him a better. You like you took all I don't
agree.
know. So that's like my one gripe. Like I don't even like um Julia Gardner's character. Like I see things online, people are upset that it's a girl. It's like, well, if you look into
They
the
actually
lore,
have- yeah.
like there's Silver Surfer, there's a male Silver Surfer, and then there's a point where his love interest does become the Silver Surfer. So it
Mhm.
could just be like in this point of the timeline, this is where she took over, and and I love Julia Gardner, so I have full faith that that's gonna be
Same.
fine. Like just stay true to the characters. Like I don't care if
Yeah.
you do these reworks, like that doesn't bother me. But like when you change who the character is, like I don't know this. Like who they are as emotionally and psychologically as a person, like don't take that away from him. Like you're gonna take away,
Mhm.
like that's like taking away. That's like to me, that's like taking away Daredevil's and Punisher's trauma. Then we don't get that moment in episode 4 where they're having these are things that these human beings have to contend with, along with
Yeah.
the things that they're able to achieve in the world. Where Daredevil's powers and the Punisher's like grit and brute force and determination, the shit that these are the things that pushes them forward. But these are
Yeah.
things that they had to learn and grow with. So I
Yeah,
hope
we'll
that it's
see.
great. I really, really do, because
Yeah.
like if it doesn't do well, like it's just gonna solidify DC kind of like taking over. Because Superman, I'm very excited for Superman.
I'm very excited for Superman. And one more thing about Joseph Quinn is just like, okay, if he plays Johnny Storm like he played his character in season 4 of Stranger Things,
Yes.
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I get it. You're gonna get the audience to love you right away, because like I loved his character in season 4 of Stranger Things. I was devastated when his character met his untimely end in a very cool way, despite
Yeah.
that,
Mhm.
But um, to your point, like if he brings that to Fantastic Four, it's just like I'm more interested in the through great efforts, this not so terrible person or whatever, but this maybe slightly annoying person and person who isn't perfect crosses into this arc of being somebody who you actually know and love and appreciate. Like, let's take The Walking Dead, for example. Daryl's brother, Merle Dixon.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
did not know that a show could make me, I'm not going to say loved a racist, a character who was racist, but Merle Dixon was racist in the beginning. Like,
Yep.
when they were on that rooftop, this man, like, looked at T-Dog and immediately just got to disrespect him, like, in the worst
Mhm.
way. But then you take that all the way up into, and sorry for anybody who's like super late on The Walking Dead, didn't watch it, but it's one of the greatest shows.
So
if
many
you will.
years ago. So many years ago. We're past the statute of limitation.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's so
Yeah,
many
like we haven't even finished it, and we're like, yeah, you can spoil
Yeah,
everything.
it's
We don't
fine.
give a
It's
shit.
fine.
But yeah, like seasons later, through all the trauma that Merle and Daryl talk about that they went through because of their father and how that shaped their beliefs and all these things and how they kind of like got socialized into this womanist or like a chauvinistic,
Hmm.
racist, all these kinds of things up until they both became better people. Now Daryl became way better. Merle became like, yeah, eh.
Like a
But
neutral good, like a neutral good.
yeah,
Yeah.
and when his character died, you saw and felt the tragedy of that. Like, oh man, you were like turning a new leaf, and you died in the most horrible way. And hey, you got to pay for your your stuff. But
Hmm.
like, you saw him as a character, and his character developed into something.
Yes.
With the MCU and with Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch, I kind of wonder what they're going to do now because if we go back to not the older Fantastic Four films with Chris Evans, Jessica Alba, all of them.
Yeah.
Chris Evans, he was like joking with his sister. There's a scene in there even when she kind of comes out and she's like, "Oh, how do I look?" And he's like, "Oh, it's kind of whatever. You don't look half bad." And then he stops and he's like, "You look beautiful." Little things like that, like even just
Yeah.
a small thing like that. Like I kind of I'm not trying to make a big deal out of it or anything because we just got to see the movie.
Yeah, of course.
But I hope that they just don't take away that in pursuit of like a whole nother direction so that
Yes.
they kind of toe the line of like not having any unlikable characters per se.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like for me, when it comes down to like the future of Marvel, it's honestly going to really come down to the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
If the Fantastic Four hits it, then I'm really looking forward to Doomsday and Secret Wars of like kind of tying all these stories together in addition to Spider-Man 4.
Hmm.
But if Fantastic Four doesn't hit the mark and it doesn't becoming as either as entertaining as Deadpool and Wolverine or as, kind of this big monumental Marvel film that sometimes they're able to do. I don't think it will be like a Black Panther or because that was a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
like I'm almost expecting like give me a Guardians level film. Like Guardians of the
Guardians 3.
Yeah, I think well, Guardians 3 gave us a lot of emotion that I don't think we were expecting. I'm not expecting
At
Guardians
all.
3. That's an unfair ask. But if you can give me Guardians of the Galaxy 1, that it can be I'm not asking for a comedy, but if you can give me such an entertaining movie that I don't care what you're doing, I'm just having a good time with it, but
Yeah,
also enrich us in great storytelling and characters,
yeah.
that is what I'm hoping for Marvel.
I do remember seeing that multiple times and just blasting that soundtrack
Yeah.
constantly
Yep.
after I saw it.
Uh,
You make a good point.
I also think it's ironic that the one
Mm.
example you bring up is a James Gunn film,
Yes.
and they're going
Yes.
up and they're going up against a James Gunn film. Like,
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, they are. Like, they are, like, 3 I think 2 or 3 weeks apart
yeah,
on
yeah.
release date. So,
great,
basically, the
great
next
summer.
big yeah, no kidding. It's gonna be a wild summer. But yeah, that's kinda like my hope. Like, I see what you're doing with your mature content, Marvel, I see you. And I think you have something interesting to do with Thunderbolts, and I'm seeing some positive buzz coming out of out of the premieres that they've been doing. So, like,
Hmm.
I've already expected this to be positive, and we're gonna be reviewing it in the next couple of weeks here. So, like,
Hmm.
I'm very much looking forward to see what Marvel can do with, kind of, these characters that I honestly never really cared about.
Yeah,
Just to an extent, like, you're bringing these, like, C-level characters that were villains and, like, B characters, like, sidelines and side stories to other bigger movies, and now you're putting them into the forefront. And when the stakes are low, in my opinion, can you bring them up higher and be like, "Yeah, that was great." But then there's so much pressure on Fantastic Four, I feel like you have to get that right.
I think that story wise, Fantastic Four, the first steps is going to be a tragedy. I think they're gonna
Mhm.
lose their planets because the trailers
Yeah.
are so happy. All of their
Mm.
citizens are like, "We love you, Fantastic Four." Nobody's blaming them for like destruction. They're like, "You're the
Yeah.
best. Oh my god, Fantastic Four! I named my kids after you, my dog after you." And like you see the foot of Galactus, presumably,
Yeah.
stepping through the city, and it's like, "Oh, they're all gonna die, aren't they?" all these people they
Yeah.
know and love are gonna die, and they have to hop through the dimensions one last time. And they're
It
gonna end up with everybody else that we know.
I think it definitely presents something that we haven't seen from Marvel before. And that's what I am hopeful to also get out of that as well. Which again, go back to the example of Guardians. Guardians is something that we've never seen from Marvel before at the time, and I'm expecting to see this again.
Yeah.
So and then sure, if it ends up our post credit scene or our endings leading into Doomsday, well, then that's how it's going to be. It's that we're literally just feeding into the next Marvel movie at this point,
That's the
as they're known
formula.
to do. That's the formula. So literally, we go from, I believe it's from Fantastic Four. All the next movie is then Avengers Doomsday. Um, but yeah. Anyway, wrapping up our Marvel discussion, Daredevil Born Again. It sounds like we can all agree there were great moments in this show, but maybe as far as it coming to the end, didn't quite hit the grand finale we were hoping for.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah, kind of
I just
ending on a
wanted a little
whimper,
bit
but
more.
season
Yeah.
2 remains hopeful with whatever Daredevil's army
Nice
is.
T.S. Eliot reference there.
Yeah. All right, so with that, we're wrapping up our weekly binge on Daredevil Born Again. We're gonna pick a next show at some point in the future to kind of dive into, but that is a future problem. Now we're going into what Ernesto like to call the meat and potatoes, our spoiler review of Ryan Coogler's latest film, Sinners, starring Michael B. Jordan as not one character, but two characters. So Brandon, we're going to start with you. We'll do a brief overview, and then we'll dive into the nitty gritty of it all. But
Okay.
your thoughts on Sinners?
Haven't had that much fun watching and rewatching a film at the theater in a long, long time, it feels like. I am floored by Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan, Delroy Lindo, Miles Caton, like the people who were like the new standout actors and everything, just from top to bottom, front to back, department to department. Like Sinners is a hit in every way you could call a film a hit. And huh, I am still thinking about that film after days have gone by, almost a whole week now. 7 days almost have passed since I watched that movie, and it's just like still on my heart, still on my mind. I'm still listening to the soundtrack and the
Hmm.
score every day in the car and when I'm at work, and I just wow. Sometimes there's a horror movie that comes out that labels itself as a horror, and I'm like, oh, that wasn't scary, so it's not a horror, and it was weak and everything. But this film, it's got its little points and everything that might make you jump a little bit, but overall, it's just really fun and so layered that I didn't even it didn't even, like, register for me that, like, I walked in kind of thinking that, "Oh, I kinda wanna be scared of things." It was just the concept overall that really won me over, and the kind of surprise factor that they hit you with what the movie actually includes, and how well these characters are, fleshed out and in the ways that they act, where they make you believe that you're really in 1930s Mississippi in the car with them, walking behind them, looking at these shops and stores, and feeling the situation or the circumstances that they are kind of trapped in.
Ernesto, what about you? Your initial thoughts?
This movie's incredible. This movie's obviously already gonna be, if not my top 10 of all time, my top 10, 100% my top 10 for the year. It's gonna be hard for this one to top, anything to knock this down, because it's number one right now. Michael B. Jordan playing dual roles. I love the subtle differences between Smoke and Stack, and just how he was able to bring that to life, to where, like, I spent the entire first half of the film, like, just trying to figure out like where the differences is, and this is more of like the visual effects and the camera tricks that they did, whether they did the split screen, or I think I read somewhere where he had to actually wear a head rig for the motion cap so they can capture his face. Um, I mean, it's just as you were saying, top to bottom. And what I love is that the whole first half of the film is really just a deep dive into the black culture of the 1932 Mississippi Jim Crow era, where you're just thrown into this world, and but it seems so seamless, where you're getting an understanding where they came from. They're coming from post World War One. Then they went to Chicago and they got involved with Al Capone and the mob scene there, and which is what led them back to Mississippi. And even mentioning that, like, yeah, black people are free in the North, but it's not really free, and that's why. And like, even them, like, they say we're free, but I'd rather deal with the devil. What did he say? The devil you know is better than the one you don't. And I
Mhm.
thought that was a nice little nod because obviously we're gonna deal with some, vampires and devils later. And like right up to the middle of the film, like you don't even realize we get one scene that's like vampire centered, which is like the introduction of the main villain and him getting his like taking over his lackeys who he meets up with, who he turns, and we kind of get the understanding of who the vampires are in this movie. And I also kind of like it is like a traditional, these are traditional vampires where it can't come out at night, stick through the
Mhm.
heart, the guard, like the whole thing. But what I really love that's an added bonus that I haven't seen is this hive mentality that they
Oh,
added. And it was kind of like a double meeting where they see these black people having a good time, and they're drawn to this one singer and they want to assimilate. So it's like everybody congregating, and yet the vampires are outside trying to take over their the one thing that they have, this black, the movie kind of also centers on like black ownership and like trying to own your own space, and do your own thing and trying to build your own wealth, and somebody else trying to assimilate and take over what you have. And not only do we see that with the vampires, we saw that right from the very beginning with the racist realtor who sold them the sawmill, and we saw that come back later on at basically the end of the film. It was like it's almost as if the vampire battles wasn't even like the final fight of the film. It was um I can't remember which one, either Smoke or Stack, who's at the end with the Tommy gun. I actually really
and
loved that
smoke.
it was Smoke. I really loved
Yeah.
that was a subversion, because for me, when I originally saw the trailer, like when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's him taking out, you know, all those vampires are there, and it's not. It's him taking
Mhm.
out, like, who doesn't love seeing a bunch of racist clan members getting blasted away? Like,
Oh yeah.
to me, that was
Oh
the
yeah.
most one
Everybody
of the most
clapping.
enjoyable parts of the film, is watching these racist guys just get, like, he's in the trees with the sniper and just
Yeah.
pow, just taking them out,
Yeah.
pulls the time, just doesn't even care. He gets shot, it just keeps going. Like,
I
I
had the
mean,
most sinister grin across my face that entire scene.
no, it was well earned. There's nothing sinister about it.
You're
Those
right.
men
You're
deserve
right.
that. But and then I also love that Ryan Coogler, that he does his research, and that these are things that actually, these are maybe not this specifically, but this thing did happen where they would sell to black people, and then they would come in the next day and then just kill them, and then just be ready to resell the property all over, and just do the same thing all over again. And
Yeah.
it's just, I love that it was a play on that for him to take that ownership back. And I mean, between the visual effects and, to me, the main song in the middle, I can't, what's
Oh,
it?
yeah. It was,
We do. That's what
which one?
The
it's
Lie.
called What We Do, and, they also it's I'll pull it up right here. I have the, motion picture soundtrack. Oh, I Lied to You
I
is
Lied
I
to
when
You.
lied to you.
it
I lied to
starts
you.
off with that. Yeah, and it's yeah.
To
I'll let you
me,
go.
that scene is a technical masterpiece.
Mhm.
Like
Absolutely.
that scene should be studied in film school for, like,
It
just the
will.
massive collaboration that it took to achieve and I was reading an interview, they did like a producer's interview with him, his wife, and the other producer, and they were just talking about how, like that scene required everybody to be on their A game, because you need, like, everybody has to be working in sync, and you see it between the lighting, the visual effects, the dancing, the choreography, the timing for Ludwig and Matt, our boy Ludwig Göransson,
Oh
like,
my god.
coming in so strong with this damn score, and so much so that he became an executive producer for this film
Yeah, I
because of
saw
the
that.
because of the amount of time that he spent on set working on this project. And I was like, hell yes. But if it was felt throughout the film, like, the score really carried the film. And what I love about that scene is that, like, when it required so much timing that they were noticing, like, there were times that the camera wouldn't get to a certain spot in time, so Ludwig would have to, they would, like, all right, well, we're gonna add another dancer here, so he would rework the score to
Mhm.
incorporate that exact dancer. And then, like, just the care they took, like, proper dances, make sure they match with the cultures, and that they were doing all these appropriate things, and just the way they all culminate in that song, and it comes together, and they show this jukebox joints, like, mentally lighting on fire. Well, I was reading that they built this set in Louis. They built a soundstage in Louisiana, and on the final day of shooting, when they were shooting this, Ryan Coogler literally lit the set on fire as part of it. So some of what you're seeing are actual real flames mixed with visual effects flames.
Mhm.
Like
The movie's incredible from just start to like storytelling wise, like just what he was able to bring on screen. And we have been dying for a original story, and I feel like he 100% delivered. I wish I'd have been able to see it in IMAX, but I didn't. I just timing just didn't work out. But I'm definitely gonna see this movie again, and it is 100% being a part of the physical collection. That's how you know it's serious. When you buy,
absolutely,
not
yeah.
even the digital. I'm gonna buy the disc.
The steelbook is getting bought for
Oh, at
I
facts, facts.
sure.
I do, since we're already on the topic, I do wanna go back to that scene because to me, that scene is the movie.
Yeah,
That was the first time in that movie after, like, we're an hour and a bit into it at
Yep.
that point, and when all of a sudden where he's that slow start with Miles Canton, who played Sammy, and he's already coming in with the blues voice, and
damn that
I was
Breaker
gonna try to replicate it, I just can't. His voice is way too deep.
so silky
Uh,
smooth. He has a fucking beautiful voice, and you know what? On top
Fantastic
of that,
voice.
he's a really great actor. He did
Yeah.
fantastic in this film.
That's
First,
actually like his first
this was
film.
his feature film debut. This is his first
Yeah.
ever role.
Amazing,
Ryan Coogler found him, in this movie.
amazing.
And so, yeah, it starts off with this slow, like, "Hey, daddy, I lied to you. I love the blues," right? It's starting this build up, and he's like, at that point, just and I've also been listening to the soundtrack
Same.
and the score, which is both in tandem, great. Like
Yes.
listening to them separately as well as together, but it's honestly that scene where like all of a sudden you hear the guitar, the electric guitar, and
Mm,
throughout that whole movie, we're just hearing the blues and the harmonicas and the voices and like this specific tone throughout this whole movie as to kind of simulate the environment. And when I heard that electric guitar going, and you're like, what just happened? And
yeah.
all of a sudden you're just kind of transported into so many different cultures, so much different genres of music. Like, and then it's not only that it's representing what those music and those types of music meant to those
Yes.
specific cultures
Yes.
at either the time period. It was transcending time and space with that song that I literally sat there and I was like, wow,
Yeah.
what am I watching right now? This is incredible. And some people I can understand the arguments like, "Wow, that was random." No,
No.
it wasn't random. It like I can see where
Like,
you're at
read
because
a book.
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe it's
You can also
random.
say that in the sense like the vampires end up being random. Like, sure, whatever, you're not paying attention. But either way,
Thank you.
like
That's what it
yeah,
is.
exactly. You're not paying attention. That scene alone, and then especially when he's belting it and it
Oh,
just goes to the sky and like and in a way like it's there's so much symbolism there. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And like to me this was like as soon as like all of this was going on it's like Luggo's going to win another Oscar. That motherfucker. He's going to win another Oscar.
Yeah.
he has
That
to.
it's insane. And then when it goes up and all of a sudden like that is also at the same time storytelling wise the call for the vampires to be like, "Oh, I need to go here now." It was that song that brought him over to be like, "I heard you from wherever I was to now I need you to be part of this collective hive you were talking about." And I was like, "Damn, that is something." Even like Dancing with the Devil, like the whole
Hmm.
environment of the speakeasy, not speakeasy, but the jukebox place was kind of like a sin in itself. There's the title Sinners is embedded in a lot what was going on in this movie,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and
100%.
100%. And so, like, the fact that, like, to me, I was already enjoying the journey that was the first hour of this movie, and I kinda like them setting the scene, but also in a way assembling the people that they wanted to go into this jukebox place. And it was told in such an entertaining way. Michael B. Jordan did such a fantastic job playing dual roles, but also in a way is like, okay, we're getting the preacher's boy to be a part of this. We're getting this old sharecropper to be a part of this. We had this like funny interaction with him and his wife as they're picking cotton, and there was like, "Where are you going? You're not going anywhere." And so it's like, "Oh no, your wife actually might give you some action tonight if you come with me right now." And you're like, "Oh damn!" And then picking up what was his character's name again? At the train station.
Oh, Delta Slim,
Yep.
played by
Delta
Delroy
Sli
Lindo.
Thank you. You
Yes.
picking him up at the train station, like, them kind of going through the beats of, like, we are not only learning about, Smoking Slim sorry, Stacking
Smoke and
Smoke
stack.
and
Smoke and
Stack.
Stack, Smoke and Stack. Not only are we learning about these characters as they're picking up other people, but we're learning about those characters as well. And all of this is just setting up the stage. So then when we get to the jukebox, we're like, okay, we basically thinking it at like a dinner table. We got all the ingredients. We're now we get to the space. Now we're setting the table. The table is set. Now let the meal begin.
Hmm.
And once the music starts, the music is all over this movie. They it brought this movie together. Like in a sense, this movie you could think of it as a musical. Like the music, it's so embedded into the storytelling,
Yeah.
like going from song after song to carrying us through different characters and scenes. Like the music is so important in this film. It means so much to what the characters are trying to say and what the movie was trying to say within even some of the lyrics in this in the film. And then when we get to the vampires of it all, I was just enjoying the ride on
Yeah.
top of that as well. Like even when we get to the vampire, like I said, I can see where your argument is like, well, that came out of nowhere. But at the same time, it's like Ernesto, you were talking about ownership. Like that there's layers within this vampire or well, not specifically ownership, but black ownership. And then having them kind of like I don't think it was a coincidence that our vampire was white.
No,
And
no,
so
no, not at all.
like them trying to kind of infiltrate into that environment and kind of coming off of like, oh, we're just here for peace when they're really not. But instead of like showing this as a race thing, which it already was, we're also seeing it as like a supernatural horror vampire sense as well. And then the story kind of going there, and also him kind of respecting the classic universal monster vibe in a way of like they have rules when it comes to being a vampire, and he kind of stuck with it. This movie goes deep, and yeah, it was a fun ride to kind of experience that. I will admit that I don't feel like I was 100% down with at the end of the day. I know a lot of people were calling this a masterpiece, and I honestly don't think I'm quite there as calling it a true cinematic masterpiece. But as far as what Ryan Coogler was able to achieve in his own right, I do believe this is Ryan Coogler's cinematic masterpiece and a huge achievement for him. But as me, as a movie watcher, I wasn't seeing it as like this is peak cinema. I think it's up there, but
Ooh.
I don't think it like I wouldn't put it down as like my top films of all time. But I had a really, really good time watching this
Oh, it's oh I man, I'm gonna have to disagree with you.
movie. I
I mean,
know you will.
I mean, I hear what you, no, I hear what you're saying, but to me, I just think like there because of there's so many layers that are involved with this film. Like the film is called Sinners, but then it's also not only is it talking about like the vampires, but it's also talking about like the secular community because we have
Mhm.
Sammy who's in this religious community and his dad gives him the speech about the blues and the people that it attract, and then that's literally what happens in the movie. And then,
Yeah,
through there, Sammy tries to hook up with this married woman. Like, let's not forget that.
that's right.
Like, we literally talk about like there's a sinner right there. Haley Steinfeld. I mean, everything, everybody in this film, like I felt like it just all the pieces fit together so well. And like the cinematography, the use, the technical achievement with the IMAX cameras and like everything that it took for that, just even that scene in particular to to be constructed, like it's just
Yeah.
I'm in absolute awe. Brandon, I do want to get your take on like the visual effects of the film.
Yeah. I think that they're pretty much seamless. Whenever visual effects are sort of like really well done, so well done to the point where the ones that actually happened and were like the biggest technical feats are all but invisible, a VFX artist has done their job. Same thing when it comes to like great editing. Like if people don't realize as they're watching it, like, oh man, that was a really great edit. The editor has done a masterful job.
Mhm.
With the VFX that you could see though that are mixed in with the flames. Incredible. There are a couple VFX houses that worked on this film. One of them I think was Industrial Light and Magic, and they're
Hmm.
they're like literal wizards. Everything they touch is gonna be like just the best thing you've ever seen, state of the art, like the standard. So I want to dive into even more of that when the more of the before and afters come out, because so many of the things just had me in such awe and wonder. Even the little fire tornado that happened
Hmm.
towards the
Mm.
end,
Mhm.
as they waded in the water, and sort of like this sort of dark baptism in a way, as Remy is telling Sammy like, hey, you can recite the Lord's Prayer to me all you want to. Like this is my perspective. Like it's not gonna affect me. And then when he gets staked through the heart by smoke, and then he goes up in flames, it's just like, man, seeing that on the little IMAX screen that I had here in Wisconsin, it was still just like, wow, that looks amazing to the point where my brain is creating the heat source for me as if I'm like right there in the water with him. I don't know what
Mhm.
was happening to me, but I was like in that movie, it felt like.
Hmm.
Um so yeah, even the things that really stood out to me were actually very small,
Okay.
and subtle. The eye effects.
Yeah.
You could do that in a
Yeah.
number of ways. If you want to do it practical, you need a light splitting glass, which is a effect that was used in Blade Runner and everything. It's kind of a thing that I don't think will ever get old because it just looks so fascinating. But I think that they did this digitally, where the main vampire Remy, his eyes were red to, I guess, kind of communicate to us how powerful he was, how old he was, how long he had been doing this, how many people he like consumed or turned. And then others, they had sort of like this moonlight in their eyes.
Mm.
And it all just like was so aesthetically pleasing to me. I was like, oh man, that looks so good. Especially after Remy goes into the house of this clan member and everything and turns them right away, and the horror of that man's wife finding him on the floor, and then he gets up and he does this like, hey baby. It looks like
Yeah.
the framing of the shot, it reminded me of like kind of like the Helsing anime, and everything, of just like these wide big gnarly smiles and whatnot. That was one of my favorite parts of VFX that you could see and notice. The other thing was the gore of the special effects of the makeup and everything involved on top of the
Yeah.
VFX that got, put on top of that, where I was just like, wow, I couldn't stop looking at it. Like when Cornbread got taken, and he tried to take Smoke as he pulled him out of the juke joint, and Smoke popped him in the face. He had
Yeah.
this like, this gash across his face, and then you can still see the glint in his eyes. I'm like, man, this creature design, monster design is so good with the handshake of VFX and special effects and makeup and everything. And then another one where uh Stack is trapped in that room after he comes back to, and he's telling him like, hey man, let me out. And they do like the kind of view of like, hey, Smoke is on one side of the door, and then
Yeah.
they show Stack and they show his neck, and I'm like, oh man. So you've
Mhm.
got an amount of body horror in here, through the gore of what happened to them and the way that they got turned. You can see it, whether it was a bite, whether it was a big gash, and it was just really impressive. All of it came together, and I wish I had them off the top of my head, the other VFX houses, because it takes a lot of work, to kind of get that stuff through the pipeline. People have to do 3D renders and rigs, and VFX artists have to do paint outs and all sorts of things. But Sinners is one of those reasons why, like, I'm gonna have to say it's like definitely a cinematic masterpiece to be studied, because just like everything that you guys said about that middle point of that whole ancestral plane in a way of Ryan Coogler revisiting that, but this time
Mhm.
having it be the dance floor and other people's ancestors coming to and from, and how you have to do with Autumn Durald Archipaw's work with the cinematography to be able to move through all of
Mhm.
that coordination of
Yeah.
blocking, set design, you know, everything coming together was just it was like a miracle happening
Yeah.
on screen that
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say rivals the things that Christopher Nolan has done because I know that Christopher Nolan has kind of served as sort of like a mentor and friend to Ryan Coogler, and
Yeah.
it shows because
Mhm.
like this his work just keeps elevating to these new levels of
Mhm.
okay, I'm going to try this thing. I have this goal and I have this passion for this thing that I'm going to work on every day for maybe years at a time. And then when you see it come together, it's just incredible. So I could talk about the VFX that I could catch with my own eye all day. But there's actually this magazine, this digital magazine called Befores and Afters, that I like to check out that really highlights how these things happen. And then I like to watch the VFX reels of like these VFX houses
Mhm.
and everything of all the breakdowns. But yeah, uh
As a horror fan, I know that you are big into horror, and we've talked a lot about horror with you on this show. Kind of now seen Ryan Coogler take a stab at it. This is his first time entering the genre,
yeah.
because he hasn't done it before. I mean, we talked about his other films with Fruitvale Station and Black Panther and Creed. They're kind of big franchise,
Mhm.
with the exception of Fruitvale Station.
Yeah.
These big franchise movies with like great kind of satisfying, like like heroic moments for these characters, but yet now we're going into Sinners, which is I feel like something completely different that Ryan Coogler
Yeah.
has never really done before. So how do you feel like his approach to horror was, being a big horror fan that you are?
I thought that his approach to horror was clever, because with what I find to be the professional and masterful pacing of the film, he spent the time to like I don't know, we should say world build because people kind of
Yeah.
like connect that to like a whole bigger thing, usually in fantasy. But like he spent the time world building. So
Mhm.
where he
Mhm.
said, "Hey, this is 1930s Mississippi. I'm going to take what's factual here, and then I'm going to sprinkle little tidbits in there that kind of get you saying like, oh man, who's this guy that kind of flies into the screen and he's running asking for help, and then you get the Native
Mhm.
Americans that are hunting him, and oh man, there's a Ku Klux Klan outfit in this guy's house in this shack in the middle of nowhere." You know, he kind of takes you from the beginning, shows you what it is, the good, the bad, the ugly, and how people are managing through these times. And then boom, middle, the juke joint party, all the business, you know, is handled and everything. We found out how they got
All
the
the
money.
Sinners.
Yeah, you know, and to get to that point, and I'm skipping back a little bit. In the beginning of the film, in like the first scene, you see Sammy arrive at the church with a broken guitar, and you get
Mhm.
these loud boom crash switches in the editing
Mm,
that
yes.
show you like these very like quick
Mm.
visuals. You kind of see what happened the night before, and you're like, what happened? What transpired in just
Yes.
one night? And then
Yes.
you finally see it. You know, you've got the beginning, middle, and end. The pacing I feel was perfect, and I think that's why it's so rewatchable. So Ryan Coogler tackling horror for the first time, I felt like, man, it really shows that he did his homework. He studied the game. There are people who are comparing this to From Dusk Till Dawn,
Mhm.
and like
Mm,
to some degree fair, but like this film, I it's just like up there, and the reason why is because of all the work that went into it, and
yeah.
and the way that he built out these characters, and not just him, because a lot of times it's easy to get lost in the director, being the author, the writer, director, and everything. But
Mhm.
from every department, production design, set design, hair and makeup, special effects, visual effects, you name it, everybody did their job in such a way where it's like people are saying, "Hey, I would see this as a stage play," and I 100% would buy
Yeah.
into that.
Ooh. Oh yeah,
But
like a musical. I could see this as a
right,
stage
it
musical.
could be all of
Yeah,
that,
no kidding.
Um, I just feel like this is one of the best horror debuts, premieres, whatever, that a director could do for the first time. And it makes me excited because I think Christopher Nolan even said that he wanted to delve into horror, and now he's got somebody he can call up
Yeah.
and be like, "Hey, how'd you do that?"
That's
Because
incredible.
Ryan Coogler is
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
always
Can you
talking about how he talks to Christopher Nolan and gets this advice. I don't think he could have. done that better to say like, hey, I'm going to give you some of the things that I've shown you before, action, this deep dive into drama, all the things that you're kind of used to me doing, and then I'm gonna show you what I know about horror and how I introduce that. Because what I actually found scary about Sinners, because people, a lot of people have been asking me like, "Oh, is this scary? Can I handle it?" I'm a big scaredy cat, but I tell them like, "Hey, if you could have handled Stranger Things, or if you could have handled, even some of the darker Marvel movies, you can handle Sinners."
Hmm.
But here's what was scary: the concept of like, hey, you guys are at this juke joint. You know the dangers of racism are around you, and you just want to be free and wild for one night.
Hmm.
You know to protect yourselves by not letting anybody in, and you still get visited by some some white strangers in the middle of the night. You think you're let off because they were kind and friendly, and you sent them on their way. The night goes awry, and even though two survivors that we know of at the time get through the night, there's still the looming, just dreadful reality that people are still coming to kill y'all the next morning. Because Smoke and Stack, when they were buying the sawmill, they noticed the floor had been cleaned or painted or whatever they said. And they
Hmm.
said, "Oh, what was on it?" And the guy kind of just like spits on the floor and doesn't really answer the question.
Yeah.
So I just the way that Ryan Coogler and friends blended together all these elements to tell you a scary story and why it's scary. Because it's like if you just got dropped into 1930s Mississippi and your skin is darker than a brown paper bag, or you're just dark at all, or you're just not white, that's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any slavery movie is scary. Any movie about like that era between the 1800s and early 1900s, or even mid
Yeah.
1900s, it's scary enough alone.
True.
Then you add vampires, and the story of the other things that might be out there that we just didn't get to see because
Right.
one me Musaku, sorry, I don't want to get her name wrong. If she happens to be listening to this podcast right now, that'd be I would
I
just
think
die.
you I think you got it right, at least close to
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Um, always loved her work. My first time ever seeing her work was in Black Mirror on Playtest, the episode
Mm.
that actually kind of scared me. And she comes in there talking about haints and ghosts and demons and vampires, and it gets your mind running and everything. And the only thing that we actually see are vampires. Her character mistakenly calls them haints at first, and then they learn
Yeah.
we learned like, oh, you guys mentioned that they're following the vampire lore rules, that you got to invite them in, they can't just walk in and everything. We've seen that on Let the Right One In. We've seen that in a couple other vampire films out there. um that's where I'm gonna land this plane. That's where I really got to give Ryan Coogler his kudos, just as you guys did, because he didn't have to do that. He could have just been like, I'm just gonna take this in wherever,
Hmm.
we're gonna get some blood sucking vampires and we're just gonna
Yeah.
do whatever we want to do. But he took that and said, anybody who knows this already is gonna know it and they're gonna appreciate it.
Hmm.
And one more step, we're gonna put Easter eggs in Spotify. Did you guys catch that?
No.
No.
On Spotify, if you go into the soundtrack page and then you scroll down a little bit into the about section and click that, they have newspaper clippings of grisly discovery at Boston Harbor, immigrant shipwrecked, no survivors. And it says, early this morning, dock workers discovered the wreckage of the Celtic Hare, a ship that had arrived overnight carrying Irish immigrants. Who's Irish? Remy.
Yeah.
um, Upon boarding, they found blood soaked decks, burned remnants, and a haunting silence. There were no survivors and no bodies to be found. Witnesses reported seeing strange flickering lights, hearing music from a distance the night prior as it approached, as if an Irish celebration had been taking place aboard the ship. But the festivities must have turned to horror. The ship's cabins were destroyed and scorched furniture lay scattered. Only signs of brutal violence and fire remained. As the workers approached, a local woman claimed to have seen a lone man fleeing the scene, his skin reportedly smoking as he disappeared into the shadows. The cause of the wreck and the mysterious disappearance of all aboard is under investigation by authorities. And there are like two more slides and everything, but I won't read them here. But it kind of like, oh, it's like, oh, is that right before we see Remy for the first time as he hops
Mhm.
into the
Mm.
screen and everything. So there are all these questions. I love when a movie leaves you still with some things to kind of mull over with your friends like we're doing now. And new people who see the movie and they've got theories and everything. Like people have got theories about that very last post credit scene, and I'll stop talking. But that's
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah.
So two things. I think I love that because and I also really love the soundtrack. And I for me it was a callback to like old 90s movies, which Ryan Coogler has mentioned that he has a love and affinity for. Whereas like you go see a good original movie and then you get a soundtrack that slaps. And
Yeah.
this soundtrack slaps.
yes.
Like I
The
love
soundtrack slaps.
like right like and but not many and I was talking to my cuz my son I was picking him up from school and just kind of getting ready for the show. I'm like, just kind of vibing to the soundtrack. He goes, "Wow, it's pretty good." I go, "Yeah, this is from the movie." Like we don't, and then I got it, and then I went into this whole conversation of like, it's like we don't really have that anymore. Like we don't really have. It's not very many movies where you go and and like there's either like one song or there's a few songs that you just latch onto. And I said when we were growing up, like it felt like almost like all the movies did that. Like I mean,
Yeah.
Titanic, "My Heart Will Go On." Like that's like an iconic song that's from that
Yeah.
damn movie. Like
Right.
we
Yeah.
just like this movie is very refreshing on just so many levels. And Brandon, I did happen to look up the visual effects. It was a team of 150 to 152 VFX artists
Oh
with
my god.
studios like Industrial Light and Magic, Rising Sun Pictures, Storm Studios, Base FX, and Perception were the
That's
names.
interesting. I was usually expecting like Weta Digital and all of those things. I sat through the credits, but I couldn't remember for the life of me of anybody other than Industrial Light and Magic.
But
Thanks for for telling me that.
like just incredible. But I
Yeah.
mean, it. So well, let's move on. So the another thing that really kind of just ties into the theme of the ownership of this film is outside the film, Ryan Coogler's
Mhm.
deal for this is absolutely incredible. After 25
Yeah.
years, he get the rights to the movie go back to his production company Proximity Media. And also there was something else about so like when the movie starts earning its revenue, usually the studio recoups its money and
Mhm.
then it goes back to the creative, whereas Ryan Coogler has stated that he from the beginning, like right from the movie's being released, he's starting to recoup his investment back. So I thought that that's incredible, and people are calling it unprecedented, kind of challenging the studio
Yeah.
system. But I think, and he's mentioned that this deal was mainly for this film, especially because it ties to like black ownership and like what better way to tie the film all together as if the creator of the film owns this. I mean, he's already given these studios massive IPs that they can latch on for years. I mean, Creed, Black Panther, and it was good. Warner Brothers felt like this is something that they needed to do to kind of recoup their failure during 2020 when they decided to release straight to streaming and theaters at the same time. So, and dealing with the strike. So, it I felt like it's a good move, but it's something that maybe we need to see. Hopefully, we see more often.
Well,
Yeah.
it's coming to the point of like you're having these creators take on ownership of their work, and I feel like that should be almost a standard now.
Hmm.
Whereas, like in most cases, that when creators make a movie, it's then you're making the movie for the studio. The
Yeah,
studio is paying for all of it. They just want to create a vision from you, and then once it all is said and done, then they go out and then it's the studio's movie to do what they want and what they were doing with it. But as to the point of now let's not forget that Black Panther was a cultural phenomenon,
yeah,
and the Black Panther franchise, in
Mhm.
addition to with Marvel, is basically a $2 billion franchise and has Ryan Coogler as your creator. Not only what he was able to do with Creed, not only creating Creed, but also being a part of as a producing partner with 2 and 3. So creating a franchise there for Universal, and then creating basically a $2 billion franchise with Black Panther 1 and 2. He's already on his way to make 3, and he's already made a name for himself as not only a director, but a black director. I think he had every right to go in there with Warner Brothers and be like, "Hey, you're trusting me to make a movie that I want to make that is 100% for me." And the fact too that he then for fight for it is something like some people are calling "Oh, this is gonna change media forever." It's like, well, that's no different from when Quentin Tarantino is making the same deal to have ownership on his movie. So, are you
Hmm.
just saying that it can change the game forever because he's black? Like, it's
Yep.
that's the reason why? Like, that's basically what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
And even I'm reading in some of the things that part of his deal, and Ryan Coogler, as he should, as an established director. I'm not saying that he should have this because he's black. I'm saying this because he's already proven himself as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And so at this point, when he's making like Ryan Coogler, I'm reading here had three non-negotiables. One of them was he wanted to retain final cut of the movie. When you're already an established filmmaker and people come for your name
Hmm.
and I think we could all say that when it says directed by Ryan Coogler, it can
Hmm.
stop right there. That is period. We are going to see that
Just
movie
like
because
Jordan Peele, Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, he's. I
yeah,
mean, he's up
certain
there.
Going to the
directors
theater.
certain directors have that command that like, "Oh, you're making a movie? I will be there on day 1. I will be there
Yeah.
opening weekend. I'm going to be there with the largest format that I can possibly do at the time." I saw this in RPX, so it's not like it's an IMAX, but I paid more so I can see it in a premium format because I knew this was a movie that warranted it.
Yeah.
So,
RPX still looked really good. I saw that was one of the formats that I went to go see it in.
yeah, it
Um,
it it does, like, honestly, like, the speakers underneath your seat.
yeah.
When he's belting out those when that scene happened, my sheet was shaking. Um, but yeah, Krugler wanted to retain final cut of the movie, which he should. And Ernesto, to your point, he also commands first dollar gross, is what
Yeah.
it's called. A percentage of the box office revenue starting from the movie's first day in theaters, as opposed to no money until the studio recoups its investment, which is
It's a
common.
great deal.
Yeah.
And so like now he's earning money from day one. And the third thing that was a non-negotiable was to the other point that you mentioned. After 25 years of its release, ownership of Sinners reverts back to Coogler, which is another thing that like even Quentin Tarantino has made a deal with as well with most of his films. When you are an established filmmaker, you have the right to get those decisions, no matter what color you are. That is what you have as a filmmaker. That is your right to do. And he was even talking of the fact of because of this film in particular, like you were mentioning, like he poured his all into this movie. And
Hmm.
the idea of the film ingrained to it is about black ownership on their property, on their freedom, even. And so the fact that he wanted that for himself, yeah, makes complete sense. And I'm happy that in a way that it's weird for me to say this, but I'm happy that Warner Brother was able to kind of go along with these terms, but also it's not like me saying that feels like that Warner Brothers is giving him the option to own his movie. No. The Warner Brothers should have done that because it was the right thing to do. So, yeah, there's a lot that's about this, and yeah, it's I think it says owning the film about ownership was meaningful sticking point for Coogler. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Exactly.
it's just there's a lot that's in there that even adds more meaning to the film behind the scenes that's contributing to the film here. I saw this movie, in RPX, but I went to go see The Amateur last night on a Wednesday night. That theater on a Wednesday night was packed.
I love it.
And I can guarantee you that most people were not going to watch The Amateur. They were going there to watch Sinners. Even when I was walking out of the theater, like, I was watching these, like, groups of people congregate, and luckily, I already seen the movie because 'cause I'm like, "Guys, just move out of the theater a little bit." Like, some people
Yeah.
haven't seen the movie yet, like, at least separate from the entrance of the theater,
Right.
but I had already seen it, and it was kinda funny that I was listening to some other people, they were like, "Okay, so Michael B. Jordan played 2 roles. There was this person and this person." And I was like, "Yes, he did. You're right." And as I continued to walk to my car. But you can tell that they walked out of that theater with an experience. I was also listening to some like I was walking by and someone was on the phone. I was like, "Yeah, I know. I love Ryan Coogler, but that was an interesting one. That was an interesting one from Coogler." But like they, it doesn't matter. People felt the need to go to the theater and watch this because of his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about those post credit scenes. I thought those were a nice little.
Yes.
It's like, okay, I see you throwing in that little Marvel post credits in there.
Which is
Um,
surprising. Sorry.
yeah,
But like people were like getting up and leaving as the
Mhm.
credits started to roll while there was still footage behind the credits. I
Yeah.
couldn't understand it. Sorry.
Yeah, and
Yeah, but
it's I think it's like maybe his love for like making sure that people sit through and look at the massive amount of people it took to create this film. Like it's not just
mhm,
the director, the actors, like there's a massive team that goes in
Yeah.
and creating these projects. I mean, he put one in the middle of the credits and he put one at the like the very
very end.
very end.
Yeah.
Like after all the credits roll, there's
That's
another
what got
post
people
credit scene.
speculating.
Yeah, what to that, like, let's talk about the post-credit scene because a lot of people contribute that being a very powerful scene, and I do agree with that. Like, you have Sammy basically toward the end of his life, and we have, I believe it's Stack who ended up getting bit by the vampire, right?
Stack, yeah.
Yeah, and then we also have, Haley
Mary.
Steinfeld's character, Mary, thank you. They're all like and it's kinda funny too because 'cause they're like, "Hey, there's some people looking for you. Can we bring 'em in?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And then you're like, "Oh, no, wait a minute. That's I know who they are. Don't do that." But then, like, you just kinda said, like, "They're not here to cause any trouble." He's like, "Oh, I thought you were dead." He's like, "Yeah." For whatever reason, he honored the deal that he made with his brother to not interfere with Sammy, when he decided to let him go toward the end of the movie. Like, he couldn't kill his brother. But whatever for whatever reason, I guess that bond was still there, even though that Stack was a vampire. To be like, I'm not going to interfere with Sammy at all because I still respect him as a person. And then we see him kind of live this long career of like being involved with music and being, a very established musician, still sticking with the blues. And we have now these two vampires come in and was like, "Hey, I know you're getting old, but like, there's still a chance I can still bite you." And he's like, "No, I already lived the life." And you can see these two vampires now, like, kind of going through time. It looks like at least, I don't know, it looks like he was about 90 years old. So if he was
Yeah.
maybe like a teenager then, easily 70 years has passed at that moment. Maybe he's
Mhm.
like in his 80s. So at least 60 years has passed since then. And you're kind of seeing this moment of like them having this mutual understanding is like still having a good time. But then even the last thing that he said, he was like, even though all that shit went down that day, it was still one of the best days of my life.
I love that.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you're like and that to me, that made me think, it's like, still like, you saw all these people getting murdered and like this attack that happened, but at that moment for him, before all that happened, he felt probably his most freest then in that moment, especially in that scene, because he was able to just be free with his music and the people surrounding him. I think no, and I think that's something to say that even under the worst circumstances, there is still a glimmer of happiness
Yeah.
within all that,
I
and
think
I think that
that's
was
right.
beautiful.
Yeah, I think that that just is kind of like a love letter from Ryan Coogler, especially to like Black people, because a lot of that lived experience, especially as Black Americans, is like trying to find the joy through the daily troubles and the trauma and like just that generational trauma too. Like um, whether it's through epigenetics, as I've learned in recent studies and whatnot, of the idea that trauma can travel through bloodlines of
Mm.
everything that enslaved peoples went through and whatnot. It just, it's just like one or two grandparents ago, you could hear about stories just like Delta Slim was telling about
Mm,
his guy who got lynched from who was working the field and everything. So um when Sammy, old man Sammy, reflects on that like that, you really kind of just sit with it, and then the music, the amazing music that's coupled with it. And
mhm,
he says to Michael B. Jordan's Stack, he says, "Was it like that for you?" And then Stack reflects and he says, "Yeah." And as that crescendo's rising in the background and everything, you see these little inserts of the shots where he says, "That was the last day I saw my brother,
Mhm.
and that was the
mhm.
last time I seen the sun." And it's like, oh man, they're trying to make me cry. It's just like that was such a beautiful ribbon or bow to tie
Mhm.
at the end of that. As you were saying in so many words, where it's like, oh man, this is why this movie feels so good
Mhm,
while at the same time hurting, while at the same time being so fun. It's the end of an adventure, even though you don't know what's next for the vampires that will walk off and live their life for however many more years. They wrap it up and say, yeah, a lot of bad things happen, but hey, I felt free, and that was kind of like one
Yeah.
of the core themes, freedom and
Yeah.
wanting and pursuing it. From the Smokestack Twins to Sammy wanting to get away from the church, to just every other character who was literally picking cotton and all those things, and how it comes to the end of that. Some of those people, they never saw their heyday or whatever. They got burned up because they got, they went out with Remy. I'm floored by this film, and it's like some films just feel like a part of you
Yeah.
after
Mhm.
you like seen them, and very few have gotten me like that. Her, Interstellar,
Mm.
Black Panther, um, this, Sinners. I
Mhm.
can name a couple others, but I just that bar scene or that old blues scene of just that exchange of dialogue. He
Yeah.
could have made it. He could have had them say any other thing and just rolled the credits. But that little small quiet moment between old Sam and Stack, it just hit me like a ton of bricks.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think to your point, that is the difference between if this was a traditional horror movie, the end credit scene would be like he's lived a life, he's going, about his day. They enter through the door, and you know that that's trouble, and then it probably cuts to them. It cuts to black before he decides to bite him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Dun, dun,
That's it.
dun.
Exactly. That's the end of a traditional horror movie. But the difference between that and a filmmaker that has a vision, that's the difference right there.
Yeah.
And still be classified as a horror film.
Yeah.
That is the difference. And like that's the reason we when we go to the movies, we hope we get that level of storytelling.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Or that just those characters interactions. Like it's not we're not here. So maybe some people are, but we're not here just for the cliches.
Yeah.
We're here for those moments and to kind of tie that up in a bow like that. It's a wonderful thing. Ernesto, your thoughts on the scene?
I mean, I thought it. I mean, it was great. It wrapped it up. You guys have kind of said everything, and to me, that my pinnacle for that scene was him reminiscing about, the last time enjoying the sunrise, and then we literally see Smoke and Stack staring at the sun, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it was fantastic. I mean, it was great. I mean, it was great. I do. They do kind of leave it open that maybe the world is open, and he could come back and revisit it
Sure.
at some point later on. Who knows?
Uh, Brandon, you were talking about the end credit scene.
The one at the very end.
What are people talking about there? Like, what's the significance of
I
bringing that song back?
saw an interesting theory. And I always try to give a user credit when I've seen somebody. It was a woman on Threads. Man, I can't remember her name to save my life, but she had an interesting theory where she said, "Oh, did you notice that young Sammy, after he gets done playing this little light of mine, he looks in some direction. I think he looks to the left or something like that." And she was like, "I think that even in playing that song in the church, like he saw somebody, and she was theorizing that, who it could have been and whatnot." Because I honestly was not confused, but after I waited after all those credits and I'm like, okay, what's gonna happen next? Like
Mhm.
are they gonna connect this to something? Or is the universe gonna open up? Is there gonna be a spin-off? What's happening? And then it's just Sammy playing this little light of mine in the church with the guitar all brand new and everything. It's like, okay, so this was before that night, maybe? Or did it get it fixed right away?
Right.
Who's off screen? What's happening? And now that people are theorizing as to why that post-credit scene is right there is interesting to me. And that's just one theory that I've heard. And people kind of just like, well, no, it couldn't have been like that because like it was, light and it was I don't think he would have seen like the devil right there or
Mm.
anything, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to think of it. And I want to go see it a third time just to like really pay attention,
Yeah.
closer attention to that one. So who knows?
I think my take on it because he's singing this little light of mine. I wonder if that's him, like really like taking in his gift that he has because it wasn't
Mm.
until he started singing that juke point that literally this Remy this vampire was able
I
to
just remembered.
like he saw him through the walls and everything and
Mhm.
he was
Yeah.
able to bring and that's why he wanted him because he was able to bring in all these other forces from the path how he's able to
Yeah.
transcend music through literal time and space. So I wonder if like any him realizing that the power of his voice is so powerful that maybe he's looking off because he's realizing that he attracts how many people he attracts to him just by his voice and maybe that's what clues him that he needs to continue on his career. That was kind of like my take on it.
Yeah, that reminds me of one more part of that theory that somebody on Threads shared. It was just like she had posed a question too, and she said, "Do you think that somehow Sammy sold a part of his soul to get so good at music, or
Mm.
was it naturally?" Because um there is this old movie from well, not old to me, but like from the 90s called The Crossroads that has Karate Kid in it. I can't remember his name.
Ralph Macchio.
And huh?
Ralph Macchio.
Ralph Macchio. And he's like this amazing guitarist and whatnot, but he's mentored by this man who's a great harmonica player who's visited by the devil or the devil's henchman or something like that to
Hmm.
present a deal that he just can't refuse to be the greatest harmonica player or whatever. And it ends in this kind of duet or this guitar versus that guitar between some amazing guitarist and Karate Kid. I'm sorry, I just forgot his name again.
Ralph
So
Macchio.
Ralph Macchio. Sorry, Ralph Macchio. If you listen to Box Office Bingers, I'm just a know nothing loser, and I cut you off.
That is
Um,
not true.
oh, thank you. So yeah, that question is what got me like, oh man, that would have been really dark if that was the thing. Because in the beginning, Saul Williams, who plays Sammy's father, is just like, drop the guitar, son. Like, oh, he got into that devil's music again or whatever.
Right.
So him saying that again, it sort of implies that like, oh, Sammy's had a run-in with like these sinful ways before the Smokestack Twins even got back to town. And what do they mean by that? What is it about this guitar that's connected through these generations and everything like that? And has he had a run-in with some spirits before?
Mm.
So I thought that was a really interesting theory. It's not fully developed or anything like that, but it did
Yeah.
get the wheels turning up here.
I do feel like that could have been an interesting take, like another alternate version of like them walking into the bar could have easily been like, "We're here to collect the debt now that you made with the devil, essentially, and then
Mm,
now it's time to pay those dues in your old age."
yeah.
Like death is in a way knocking on his doorstep with them coming out into the bar, and they even said like, I'm not sure how many years I have left, and they were even describing that. It ended up being a very a tender moment in the film, but it could have went in so many different ways with that. But I do like that theory of making a deal with the devil, because that is ingrained within this world that could have already been there.
Hmm.
And the sense of going back with the title Sinners, you can only imagine, right? If that was at the end of the day, he ended up making a deal with the devil to be as talented as he is with the guitar, because he really wanted to learn to play it. And then, like that at the very end, that was revealed, and they throw the title card back up saying "Sinners." Like, here is just yet another sin
Hmm.
that's in this movie. I do like that theory if it's somewhere ingrained there that we haven't seen it yet. And again, there are so many different sins between either murder or the jukebox joint can be already considered as a sin to some people. Obviously, the amounts of sex that was happening throughout it, the infidelity that was happening in there. Some people just the fact that you're just dancing,
That
uh,
was the place to be.
that was the place to be, and just for one night apparently. Um, but you talked about sequels, and I had pulled a quote from Ryan Coogler, and I pulled a quote specifically for you, Ernesto, because I think you would enjoy pretty much everything that he has to say. And I think this will maybe even like you, like the filmmaker Ryan Coogler, even more than you already do. But Ryan Coogler was asked whether he considered a potential sequel for Sinners. And he says, although it was an idea that he never thought about, the director elaborated on how he wanted to work on something original after have done many franchise projects. He then explained that his intention for the film was to feel like a full meal and would
Mm.
be a finished thing. I never think about that. I've been in a space of making franchise film for a bit, so I wanted to get away from that. I was looking forward to working on a film that felt original and personal to me and had the appetite for delivering something to audience that was original and unique. I wanted the movie to feel like a full meal, your appetizers, starters, entrees, and desserts. I wanted all of it there. I wanted it to be a holistic and finished thing. That was eh, that was how I was that's how I was asked all about. That was always my intention. So he
Success.
to your point, Ernesto, we always talk about a movie being the full meal.
Oh, it was a
And that
meal.
was his intention going right into this movie.
This movie was a buffet. It's so damn good.
um,
I ate
as
so much.
For real. I ate. He ate.
As we do wrap up this conversation, we do as always want to talk about the box office, and I feel like in some cases, for all these different reasons that always come into play here, it's always for whatever reason for this particular movie ends up being a controversial one on the box office itself. So at the time of this recording, at the time of this recording, the movie has made $64.4 million domestically, $15.5 million internationally,
Oh, did
with a
we lose?
grand
Sorry.
sorry?
Did we lose Ernesto?
No, I'm
It
here.
says standby.
No,
Oh,
no, he's here.
oh, sorry.
No, you're good, you're good. I'll start over. At the time of this recording, the movie has made $64.4 million domestically, $15.5 million internationally, and a grand total of $79.9 million worldwide. He's already broken a lot of box office records, not only for being a black filmmaker, but also having like I think in like an opening weekend having 1 million of those dollars go to IMAX, which is
Mm,
already unprecedented. Like having a warrant to go out and watch this movie, it's a high achievement for a rated R horror movie to have a bigger opening that it already has. I believe that title previously it went to Us, which was from Jordan Peele. So he's kind of now taking that honor with his opening weekend. It had 55, or let's see here, it says $48 million opening weekend domestically. And so the realm of contention is that this movie cost $90 million. And so right now we see the worldwide gross of about close to $80 million. And so on the headlines, there's like, is this movie profitable? I did see that a lot. And then I
mhm.
also saw a lot of people defending that. It's like, this movie came out opening, there's only been 1 week.
Yeah,
And you're talking about this movie's gonna be profitable. The movie's already made $80 million. It's had so much positive buzz. People are constantly seeing this movie. At the
Yeah.
time of this recording, the movie opened $48 million. We're recording this on a Thursday night, almost a week from the opening, and it's already almost doubled that amount. Like, not I wouldn't say double, but from 48 to 64. So it's still increasingly growing there. Granted, it's probably not going to have a huge international market. That's I don't think it was expected. But yes, with a $90 million um, price tag, in order for the film to be profitable, the movie would have to make $225 million. So does it have a long road to get there? Sure. But when there's no big releases coming out between now and I would say Thunderbolts, and then even then, this
yeah,
movie, you're not going to be in competition with Thunderbolts. You're going into a different demographic here. So in my opinion. So in that realm, is this movie going to be profitable? At this point, who cares?
yeah.
It's like
Exactly.
But I
it's like
think it is.
I'm
It
sure
has
Warner
to.
Brothers is looking for an investment to be returned, sure, but, like, we're worried about this movie's gonna be making money. We're not even worried about, whether or not let's talk about the movie. Let's talk and that's not worried about if it's making money or not. And I feel like that was an interesting point that I saw a lot of people bring up of like, "Well, I don't know, like, this movie has a lot of these successes, but is it gonna be profitable?" I was like, "I don't think anyone gives a damn if this movie's gonna be profitable."
Yeah.
Because it's
I
good.
think let
It will
because it's
stand the
The
good.
word of
it
mouth
will
has been
stand the
crazy.
test of time.
Right.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, this let the movie speak for itself. Let the movie cook.
Yeah,
Like in the second week, it could be, I wouldn't say maybe bigger than opening weekend, but like it could have a good staying power because
Mhm.
of the positive word of mouth that it's getting there.
oh
And a lot
yeah,
of people said the same thing about like I know it's slightly different, but Avatar, The World of Water, right? A lot of people after like the $2 billion movie that was Avatar, the first movie. And then it's like, "Oh, it only opened at $65 million. This movie's never gonna make 2 billion." Sure as shit, it did.
it
The movie
did.
made $2 billion,
That's insane.
uh, at the end of the day. I'm not saying that Sinners is gonna make 2 billion. I'm not even saying it's
That'd
gonna
be
hit the
pretty neat
billion.
though.
It would be pretty
No,
neat, I'm not gonna lie.
I mean,
Um,
and considering that this is an R-rated film, so you're already
yes.
excluding a lot of your you're already excluding a majority of the audience. You know,
Mhm.
he probably would have went. He could have probably made more on the front if he had gone PG-13. But I think this movie it needed that R-rating.
Yeah. I loved
Yeah.
how far they pushed everything, even on the more raunchy details of
Yeah,
everything. It just
Mhm.
all felt so authentic and necessary. There's a lot of movies where and shows where if they include like something like a romance scene or intimacy scene or whatever, where it kind of feels just like shoved in there
hmm
for the sake of being
Yeah.
there. But this time it was just like, oh, it adds to the characters and what they experience and why they so quickly love each other, or if they've had that baggage and everything. And I won't get too far into that because I know we're like at the at the end mostly, but like Sinners, for them to have kind of stuck to their decisions and just kind of shipped it, I'm
Yeah.
here for it. So I hope it makes all the money.
Yeah.
um
Yeah,
and
I think it's on the road to get there. Like, I think
yeah,
it's so much positive buzz around it for the people who didn't catch it opening weekend.
yeah.
We're still 2 weeks away from Thunderbolts. Like, what are we talking about here?
I have a viral post on Threads. Well, viral, like four almost 500 people liked the post and shared
Own
it.
it. Own it. It's
Yeah.
viral. It's viral.
But I said that like everybody who I talked to about Sinners, everybody who has seen Sinners has either said that they plan to or has gone to see it again within like 48 hours.
Yeah.
And myself being one of them. Like in the same day, I saw it twice, but I had already planned on seeing it twice in the same day because I wanted to experience those different formats and how the screen changes. But literally, every person I come across online and in person, they say, "Oh my God, it was just as good as you said it was. I really want to go see it again." Or, "Oh my God, I heard that it was so good and I just had to go see it. I took my wife, I took this person, blah, blah, blah."
Yeah.
And they go and see it again. And then they
Yeah.
say, "I want to see it again. I
Yeah.
want to see it a third time, even a fourth time if I can." Like, and
Yeah.
I want the collector's edition steelbook. Like, there's something about this movie that's got people all over wanting a replay at the theaters. They are willingly spending money on concessions and
Mhm.
tickets
Yeah.
for the premium experience. And
Yeah.
where they can get it, the 70 millimeter IMAX experiences are still sold out in
Yeah.
certain select areas. That's insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, again, if you're worried about movie that's being profitable, you're insane.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're out of your mind right now.
Like, what are we
Uh,
talking
what are we talking about? We should be talking about Ryan Coogler and how amazing this movie is,
Right.
and we are. But with that, Brian, I was about to say Brian, you're not Brian.
Yeah,
Uh,
bro, how dare you?
Brandon, your final thoughts on Sinners?
And your
Final
score.
thoughts on Sinners. Just incredible. I feel like it's a masterpiece. I feel like, just like you guys said in the beginning, that this is going to be something that's studied in film school a lot, brought up a lot. You're going to get a lot of imitators, people who are trying to get through and make a quick move without really studying how much work went into this across all departments. I say, go for it and learn your hard lesson about how much work went into that. But like, I a lot of people have been saying too that this film has inspired everybody who ever wanted to make a film, every writer, every artist, whatever, to just kind of get to work
Mhm.
after that. And that's what I'm taking with me for this. Like Ryan Coogler and team's work on this film just really activated something in me. And this is going to be something that I tell my kids about as they get older. I'm going to tell everybody else to watch it. It's one of those movies where it's just like, have you seen Sinners? 10 years from now, 20 years ago now, and they say no, and I go, okay, guess what we're doing? Like,
Yeah.
you're
Baby,
gonna watch
get
Sinners.
my steel book off the counter.
Exactly.
I know we had plans tonight, but you said you didn't see one of a great,
Right.
great cinematic masterpiece. I'm gonna go
Right.
grab that off the shelf right now, or that's where we spend the rest of the night doing.
She's
Old
gonna go,
man hanging on to my physical media with my old dusty Xbox or whatever can still play the thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
And watching this movie.
honey, can you grab my Xbox out of the basement? This man has never seen Sinners before on 4K.
Look, and we could watch it with the director's commentary.
Right. I'm like, you're such a nerd, Grandpa.
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
Yes, I am.
proudly.
Now sit down.
Yeah, this
Sit down.
they accomplished their mission of wanting to make this feel like a full meal
Yes.
because,
Mhm.
like a full meal and one that tastes exceptionally good, I'm gonna want it again at some point. And like now, I've had that full meal twice, and I
Yeah.
don't regret my decisions. And I want
I'm
it
still
the third
stuffed,
time.
and I'm waiting for more.
Exactly. Keep on bringing the plates. So yeah, that's my thing. I'm still excited. I'm still thinking about the movie days later. And if you're listening to this podcast right now or watching it, and you haven't seen Sinners, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Go and see the movie. I don't care how busy you are. You got kids? Bring the kids. If they're crying and you get kicked out, buy another ticket and watch it again. Don't disturb other people's movie going
Yeah, exactly.
experience. But
Go to the
see
first
it.
showing of the day.
Yeah, go to the first show of the day. And your 5-star rating, sir. We do here on the show.
5 out of 5.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
I consider myself somebody, even though I mostly talk about movies in a positive manner, I don't give out a lot of perfect scores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this one easily deserves it for the pacing, the VFX, the acting, the delivery, the cast, the crew, the direction, the writing, and how much fun I had watching it.
Ernesto.
Yeah, I resonate with everything that you just said. Like, I think primarily that one scene should be studied and broken down. Like, I could easily see that being broken down in film schools. Like,
Oh yeah.
it deserves to be studied. Like, it is incredible what these group of human beings were able to accomplish together. Because that wasn't just like, oh, this was great, this was great. Everybody was on their fucking A game. Like,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
got to shoot this shit, and they made it happen. Like, it is a beautifully well constructed scene, from visual effects, from the music, from the choreography, from the acting, from the dual acting of Michael B. Jordan. Like I just I'm in the cinematography. I am in awe of like everything that this film was to accomplish. Matt, if I could give it a 6-star, I would.
I would. I will say this is easily this is obviously a 5 out of 5 for me as well. This is easily the best movie of the year so far,
Oh yeah,
hands down.
it's gonna be
I
hard. It's gonna be hard to
I
top
believe
this.
I believe 2025 has been a rough year for movies so far,
Oh yeah.
especially the theatrical films. There's movies that we've seen in the theater, but and even the ones that I was interested in watching I was a little bit disappointed with Captain America: Brave New World,
Same.
and
Yeah.
I had a very I wouldn't say as disappointed, but like I had my reserves for Mickey 17.
Mm.
Not exactly the movie that I thought I was going into. It was still a fun ride, but not essentially the masterpiece that maybe I was either hoping for
It
or like I've
wasn't
seen better
Parasite.
come from Bong Joon-ho, and I was a little bit slightly disappointed with that movie as well, but I still enjoyed the ride for what it was. So with that, like kind of managing those expectations a little bit, I watched Sinners and like, here it is. Here's cinema.
Yeah.
This is the reason why we go to the theater. This is the movie I've been waiting for to see all year right now. And I'm hoping this is the start of a very fun and successful summer blockbuster season
Mm.
as we get into all these big franchise movies. Like we all go to the movies because we want to be entertained. We want to have a good time in the theater. Like I don't want to walk out and be like, damn, I feel like I wasted my time or I could have
Right.
watched this at home.
Nachos were terrible. The movie
Yeah,
was
exactly.
bad.
Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm gonna go back and go home and watch Paradise. It's like that was better. So like there's
Could
like
have been doing laundry.
this is the reason why we go to the theater, 100%.
Yeah.
And I kind of leave you. This is honestly the first movie that I see like as we're already wrapping up a few months, like we're already a month ago now, but hey, we're already restarting the season. We're looking at Oscar time, right?
Oh,
My question to you, and I just let's put our feelings aside for a moment
I can't.
about the movie. Do we feel that the Oscars a year later would recognize this movie for any potential nominations? I feel like it should,
Yeah.
but will they because it's so far away from award season?
Given the news that really just kind of floored me that just now they are requiring
Yes.
Oscars voters to actually watch the film.
Yeah, that's wild.
I think we're in good hands.
We're gonna talk about that next week. By the way, we
Okay.
also saw that news. We're gonna definitely be diving
Tuned,
into
audience.
Oh.
the recent news that come out of the Academy, in addition to the stunts category finally being
Yeah.
recognized. But there's a few things that came out of the Academy that we're definitely talking about on next week's episode.
I
Just
feel like
putting it
there's
out
I feel like there's gonna be a rant in there somewhere between
Absolutely.
you or me or both, because that's some bullshit. But
Yeah.
to your question about Sinners, yes, I do think it should be recognized. I mean, obviously Ludwig Göransson. I mean, on a side note, he is slowly becoming like Michael Giacchino. Like he is an incredible composer. Like this
Yes.
man is fucking next level. Like I love all of his scores. They're all great.
Mhm.
They're all
And he
good.
really truly knows his stuff.
Yes,
Like
Absolutely.
This man
a
knows his
composer's
shit.
composer.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he composes some fucking beautiful shit, and
Yeah.
he
Yes.
did not disappoint when it came to Sinners. So I'm just excited for whatever he's gonna do next. So that being said, I would love to see him be recognized for the sound and score for this film, and
Yeah.
VFX, editing, cinematography. Like really, really like those should be recognized. Now
Mhm.
it is hard because we don't typically see horror movies. I mean, we did see it with Matt's favorite movie, what's that?
Hereditary.
The
Oh, The
Substance.
Oh,
Have
the
Substance.
you seen The
substance.
Substance?
I have, and I loved it.
Oh, thank
I
you. All right.
registered for movie for just to watch that movie, and then when I was
Yes.
done, I got rid of movie.
Mm. Yeah, same.
I bought the movie after I watched it. I was like, "Holy shit."
Yeah,
That's talk about a movie I had 0 expectations going in,
same.
and I knew very little about it, and all of a sudden, you're just sitting there like, "Wait, what am I watching right now?" Like, "What?
Absolute
Oh
cinema.
when when it got nominated for Best Picture, I was like, "Wow, I didn't think it would do it."
Yeah,
And it did, and it's was fantastic. But
right.
yes, to your point, the Oscars are notorious for not nominating horror films.
Yeah, but I feel like Ryan Coogler is an exception. He's an
Mhm.
Hollywood favorite. He's given them
Oh
black.
yeah.
He's a Marvel director. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
I
Yeah.
feel like he's
Hollywood darling.
friends with Christopher Nolan. Like I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I
No
mean?
bigger flex at the moment.
Like
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan is credited as in this film as for giving thanks, like
Yeah.
for his help. So I mean, not for nothing. You know, I would love to see a collaboration between Ryan Coogler and
Ah,
Christopher Nolan. Can you imagine them
can you
two working
imagine that?
together on a project? Like, wow, ah,
Yeah.
amazing. But
The storytelling that could happen there is incredible,
it's
or
incredible.
the cinematic achievement that could happen there is also incredible. Yeah, Christopher Nolan basically was a person who convinced him and helped him to shoot in IMAX with IMAX cameras.
Yeah.
Like, he
I kind of
convinced him to
wish
shoot
Tenet
this movie.
was that collaboration.
Yeah,
Sorry?
I said I kind of wish Tenet was that collaboration, even though I like
Yeah.
Tenet just fine. But I feel like that would have been
ooh,
a strong one
that would have been
for
a
Yeah.
nice. That would have
bringing
been a
him
nice ad.
yeah.
Yeah, Tenet was definitely not on the high list of
Yeah.
Nolan's film. It's one of the only Nolan films I've only seen once, because after I watched it, I was like, "I really don't wanna put myself through that again."
It's probably
But
like
I will
Interstellar.
eventually.
It's probably better.
Sorry.
It'll probably be
One last
better.
thing is
Oh, go ahead.
that one last thing I really want to shout out about Sinners is, and this only came up because talking about Tenet, is the audio mixing. I could hear
Mm,
every last thing that a character was saying, no matter what was going on.
Oh, so
And a
yeah.
important.
lot of movies and shows don't really do that anymore, which is a lot of the reason why we watch things with so many captions on top of, like, maybe even getting old. But like
Yeah.
in
No, but I think that's
Sinners,
a good point.
it's all clear and you
Yeah.
could hear it just fine. Sorry.
No, but
No, you're good,
I
yeah.
agree. I actually I agree with you 100%. Like when you watch TV, you almost have to put on subtitles
Mhm.
because the mix is like sometimes the music's overpowering or
Yeah.
sometimes like the audio like the voice track is just so low it's like barely audible. It's like what are they saying? Like no, but you're
Yeah,
absolutely right. That's a good
yeah.
point.
I really do hope that the I really hope that the Oscars is considering this down the line.
Yeah, it would be
Like,
nice.
we it they I kinda given the same credit that Dune Part 2 did, even though it won only 2 Oscars and it didn't get, like, the full recognition, but I Dune Part 2 had the staying power from coming out in March to still being looked at around the award season, and I feel like very similar to Dune Part 2, as of last year, that was the first movie that I was like, I just witnessed a a masterpiece of sorts.
Yeah.
And I feel like now going with Sinners, I'm having the same experience again. Like, this is the first real movie that I saw this year.
Yeah.
And so
Very exciting.
and I'm hoping that this is just the start of a great summer season. But if it's not, at least there's one movie that we can already confidently say when we talk about the best of 2025, we're talking about this movie right here.
Facts.
So there you go. That's our spoiler review on Sinners, as well as a little bit of what we've been watching, our wrap up of Daredevil Born Again. Brandon, as always, you came, you showed up, and you didn't disappoint. Lucky 13 already in the books.
Oh yeah. Thank you for having me. This was epic and amazing, and I'm so glad that I finally got somebody to have a good, thorough talk about this movie with. Oh my god,
Yes,
thank you.
I feel like easily we could have talked about this movie for like another hour. There's so many
we
other
probably could have.
like there's so many other like we could have literally I could literally sit down and just break down the plot of this movie and just like
Yes,
Yeah.
just appreciate it like again and again and again.
definitely.
There's just so much to discover. I mean, what an amazing film. Like What a great watch. I'm so glad that we did this. Like Brandon, as always, you're incredible, sir. Thank you for coming on.
Yes.
Lucky number
Likewise.
13.
Yes.
Always coming through. Now we just got to figure out what we're gonna bring you back on for, and hopefully it's
Yeah.
not. Hopefully it's not. It won't be a year away this time.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that it took us a year to bring you back on. Like I didn't even when I first saw, I was like, "Wow, has it really
Yeah,
been that
time
long?"
flown.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You know,
seriously.
so
Hopefully, we can bring you back for at least one more movie before the end of the
yeah,
year.
yeah.
yeah.
If you're already thinking of something, like, or hey, reach out. It's like, hey, I just watched a movie. I really want to talk about it.
Okay.
You always have a platform here. Don't be afraid to reach out. It's like, hey,
Thank you.
I
You've
just saw
reached
this
that level.
movie. We gotta talk about it right now. I was like, well,
Yeah.
we'll put you in
Oh,
the book, sir.
all right.
Number
All right.
14, here we come.
I'll look up the slate.
Yeah. For those looking for more on your wonderful insight, where can they find you?
So now I'm on Threads and Instagram. I left whatever that other app is called, and and I still go by the same handles as the Hadnot. That's where I do a lot of my posting. I spend most of my time on Threads these days. I really enjoy the Threads community. It's great for talking about movies or anything you're passionate about. Really, they've done a great job at that, or at least the people have done a great
Mhm.
job. So if you want to know what I'm interested in or what I'm gonna be working on, that's where you'll find me spending the most amount of time.
There you go. And if you want more from us, you can always follow us on all of our social media channels on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Box Office Bingers, our X and Letterbox page at Box Office Binger, and our Threads and Instagram page at Box Office _ Bingers. The fun doesn't stop here; it continues on all of our social media channels. So be sure to give each one of those a follow to keep up to date on new episodes, little reels that we put out, extra content, new to streaming every Friday, box office updates every Sunday. It's all there on our social media channels. So be sure to give each one of those a follow. Brandon, as always, it's thank you for coming on for like 13 times. You've been with us since episode 6. We are now wrapping up episode 255,
Oh
almost
my
five and a
gosh,
half years later.
That's kind of crazy.
It it's
that is
crazy.
crazy.
It's also crazy because sometimes I point this out. Almost every interaction that we've had has been recorded, and so, for the people to hear, and our love of film has kept us connected this whole time, and it's a beautiful thing, and I love it
Yeah,
that this podcast is able to bring that this kind of love for this community, and we always thrilled to have. Yeah, we're shorter. It's fun to bring on new guests and kind of introduce them to the show, but I think it's even more rewarding for us when we have returning guests come back on. Mainly because it's like, you know what? They came on once, they're like, I'll do that again. And you said that 12 more times after the first time.
always a pleasure, man.
So
I've
we
had such a great time.
um we really appreciate each and every one who listen to us just talk about movies. We really do appreciate it. Ernesto, what do we got next? What do we got on the board for next week? What do we got on the docket?
We are reviewing The Accountant 2, the
Nice.
new Ben Affleck and John Bernthal movie. It's kind of I kind of see it like it's kind of like The Amateur, like they're very similar vibes. I
Yeah.
never saw the first one, so this is going to be an experience for me. I'm going to watch the first one and the second one. And actually, like you brought it up that the first one was great. My father-in-law was talking to me when I went to go visit them. He's like, "I know you watch movies." Like he's like, "But you got to check this movie out." He was, this movie. I was like,
So
"All
you know
right."
it's good.
He's like, I was like, "Oh, it must be good if he brought it." If like he brought up a movie to me, he's like, "It must be
Yeah.
good."
Yeah. He's like, you're a movie guy, right?
Yeah, he's
You got to
like,
watch this
"You
movie.
like movies, kid?"
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You like the movies?
So that's that. You can check that out next week. We're also going to be doing What You're Watching.
Yeah.
I guess hopefully Matt will watch Devil May Cry, and we can kind of nerd out on that.
Mhm.
I think it's worth your time. Or next week you can tell me how much I wasted your time. Either way, I don't think so.
Come back next week to find the verdict. But yeah, come check out our thoughts on The Amateur, our thoughts on The Accountant too, as well as entertainment news and what we've been watching. It's all going to be there next week. So come back next week for all that movie fun. You're not going to regret it. We like to thank each and every one of you for just listening to us just talk about movies. I know we probably had a long episode this week, but we had Brandon on the show. It's very warranted. We're talking about Sinners.
I'm
Yeah.
So
excited.
Gotta get that
he did the voice. Fantastic.
Excellent. Cool.
Amazing. And that's the show for this week. I forgot the rest of the stuff that I say, but thank you for listening to us. And for that, I've been your host, Matt Diaz. Nope, that's not my name.
That's not your name. Try again.
And for that, I've been your host, Matt Diaz.
And I've been Ernesto Santos. See ya.